Chapter 1645. This isn't spatial energy. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, Shan Lingqiu calmly replied. He stared at the majestic golden mountain ahead. This is world energy. The eyes of everyone gleamed with sharpness. That's right, this was the energy that many of them wanted to find and come into contact with. World energy. Qin Wentian's gaze sharpened as he stared ahead. Was this world energy that truly existed? In addition, it had materialized here. The transcending Emperor Stone Mine was right before their eyes. This could even be considered world stones. At the Emperor realm, one would be able to comprehend the law domain to the extreme, fusing different laws together to create a powerful law domain. However, what should they do next? When one's comprehension of law energy reached the extreme, they would be able to comprehend the origin of law energy. At that time, cultivators would be able to fuse their will into their law domain. Their law intent would be their will. Their heavenly will would be their will. From there, they would be able to fuse their law energy together, creating a brand new energy. This energy was known as world energy. This kind of energy had already surpassed the boundaries of law domains. It was a qualitative transformation, a true qualitative change. When a brand new energy fuses together, your law intent would also fuse into it. That energy would become a part of you. Stellar martial cultivators themselves represented the will of heaven and earth. Hence, they were truly extraordinary existences. They weren't merely immortals who used their own laws, they were existences that transcended immortality, achieving freedom. Hence, there were countless immortal emperors in the lifelong realm. However, how many world overlords were there? Currently, Qin Wentian only knew of two. One was the lifelong realm lord, and the other was Ephraim back then. This step must be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Countless extraordinary characters might spend their entire lives, but even when they died, they still couldn't reach that level. Let alone world overlords. They couldn't even reach the realm between immortal emperors and world overlords. There were extremely few people at that level. In the boundlessly vast lifelong realm, those who could step into that realm would all be able to become palace lords or establish a peak power. From this, one could very well imagine how powerful they were. After Qin Wentian entered the supreme ancient immortal realms, it was naturally impossible for him to not understand this information. He had once read ancient records, and there were records of the 33 immortal realms they lived in. Why was the supreme ancient immortal realms formed? Why was there a world? Why was this world so balanced? There were all sorts of laws that naturally fused together. World overlords already had the qualifications to come into contact with that level. The more stellar martial cultivators grew, the closer they would get to the truth, closer to the essence of the world. Brother Shan saw through world energy with a single glance. As expected of the senior disciple of the Skyer Empyrean, most probably, you aren't too far away from that level. Morong Xiaoxiao smiled. Shan Lingqiu shook his head. I'm still too far away. I believe that Brother Shan will be able to step into that realm sooner or later. Perhaps in this Taotai mine, you will be able to comprehend the level of a palace master. Morong Xiaoxiao continued. I don't know much about the formation of the boundary stone. Can Brother Shan explain it to me? Yes. Shan Lingqiu calmly nodded. I was once fortunate enough to listen to my ancestor's lecture on the Tao. He said that there are 9 astral rivers in the world, containing countless constellations. In truth, these 9 astral rivers all correspond to our cultivation bases. The higher the astral river, the more terrifying the power contained in the constellations. But because the cultivators who sensed it are restricted by their cultivation base, in addition to the boundless distance between them and the constellations, they have no way to truly sense the true power of the constellations. What they can sense is only the power they can absorb. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed when he heard Shan Lingqiu's words. He already had this suspicion in his heart. The higher one's constellation was in the 9 heavenly layers, the more extraordinary it would be. But even for constellations at the first heavenly layer, they contain boundless law energy within them. If not, for some immortal cultivators, if they tried to condense a constellation at the lowest level before, would their constellations be crippled? Naturally not. When one's cultivation base is higher, the amount of energy they can absorb would naturally be different. These mines are actually all gigantic meteors in the starry space or small constellations that were formed naturally. Although I have no idea how this Taotai mine was formed, it must have experienced the passage of countless years. As the saying goes, water droplets can penetrate a rock. Under the accumulation of time, everything would change from quantitative to qualitative. Mines of laws would be the same as stellar martial cultivators, gradually giving birth to source origin energy and law intent. When two different source origin energies exist together for countless years, their law intents would fuse together, and from there, a brand new type of energy would be born, giving birth to worldstone mines. You are saying that this mine has its own consciousness? Morong Xiaoxiao asked. Law intent isn't self-consciousness. There are laws in heaven and earth, and that is what we usually refer to as heaven's will. However, it is illusory, yet it truly exists. It isn't like humans or demonic beasts, they can't think. Shan Lingqiu explained. Morong Xiaoxiao's beautiful eyes flashed with a bright light. She smiled. Brother Shan, you are truly too awesome. After hearing your words, I feel that I'm about to gain enlightenment. Incisive. The Yi siblings nodded as well. Qin Wentian had a look of contemplation on his face. Although Morong Xiaoxiao's words were filled with flattery, Shan Lingqiu's words truly caused one to feel enlightened. Humans often said that heaven's will is hard to fathom. Heaven's will is hard to defy. Using Shan Lingqiu's words to explain it, it was very logical. Heaven's will was a type of law intent born from heaven and earth. It didn't have the ability to think and was originally illusory. It was naturally hard to fathom. As for humans, they were the spirits of all living things. When humans comprehended that type of energy, their self-consciousness would fuse into that energy, forming the law intent. You would then represent the will of heaven and earth. Heaven's will is my will. How tyrannical is that? These are all superficial things. The world stone before us should be formed from the fusion of the law intent of space and the law intent of earth, giving birth to a brand new type of law intent, transforming from law energy to world energy. Those people are trapped inside and most probably, they would never be able to come out again. Shan Lingqiu stared at the group of figures on the mountain peak as he spoke. The eyes of these people all turned lifeless. They must have experienced a painful struggle. This place isn't suitable for us. Only experts at the World Overlord realm would be able to comprehend this type of energy. We are still some distance away from them. Shan Lingqiu continued. Emichem, I will listen to you. Morong Xiaoxiao nodded. Although the group of them felt that this world mountain was mystical, they also understood that it wasn't suitable for them to comprehend and cultivate here. The distance between them and this place was too far. The group of them continued forward and found another extraordinary place. This was a sword river that flowed down from the sky. It was like a waterfall that flowed downwards unceasingly, flowing into the earth. However, there was a region where the sword river flowed past that transformed into a bottomless abyss. It was unknown if this abyss had reached the core of the Taotai mine or not. This sword river was too terrifying. If one stood below it, only death would await them. The sword intent is still there. It hasn't fused together yet. This sword intent is very close to the origin source of law energy. Shan Lingqiu sat cross-legged and directly closed his eyes to comprehend. Morong Xiaoxiao started when she saw this scene. After that, she smiled sweetly and sat down beside Shan Lingqiu. Qin Wentian also found a good spot. He didn't sit down and merely stood there, quietly watching. His white robes fluttered in the wind as his long hair fluttered in the wind. The law energy of the sword also had a myriad of forms. It could actually transform into flowing water that flowed according to the flow of the sword energy. There were many people here. All of them were here to comprehend, standing in different locations. For those who came to the Taotai mine, other than for the ores, they also wanted to comprehend and cultivate. There were simply too many opportunities here. Several months later, the group of them were still in the midst of comprehending. Qin Wentian stood alone in a corner, while Morong Xiaoxiao would occasionally ask Shan Lingqiu for guidance. Brother Shan, did you comprehend something again? At this moment, Morong Xiaoxiao asked when she saw Shan Lingqiu opening his eyes. Shan Lingqiu nodded lightly. Morong Xiaoxiao then asked, Brother Shan, I wish to consult you. This sword river is like flowing water, gentle but not hard. However, the sword intent is extremely tough and powerful. Can swords really become gentle and have no killing intent? Naturally, it can't. If a sword intent loses its sharpness, can it still be called a sword intent? Shan Lingqiu spoke. Swordsmen should be extremely sharp. Although the sword river before us is gentle, it's actually extremely tough and yang. If one enters it, they would instantly die. The so-called gentleness is merely a facade. Not far away, Qin Wentian's expression changed when he heard Shan Lingqiu's words. In truth, he had been thinking about this question during these few days. However, he had a different understanding from Shan Lingqiu, and he could use this opportunity to discuss it. Hence he spoke, I have a different opinion. The law intent can take on a myriad of forms. For sword attribute swords, there's an extremely tough and yang intent. This is something bestowed by the law attribute itself. However, sword intent can also be gentle, like flowing water brushing past one's body. Morong Xiaoxiao inclined her head and smiled at Qin Wentian. She didn't expect him to speak at this moment. Shan Lingqiu frowned when he was refuted by Qin Wentian. He calmly spoke. Have you seen a sword that can't kill? I have. Qin Wentian nodded. When we control the sword intent in our body, why wouldn't it injure us? Fallacy. Shan Lingqiu's voice turned cold. How can the energy we control hurt ourselves? What kind of example is this? It's simply nonsense. The so-called law intent is to infuse one's own will into one's energy. This is what you said earlier. Since this is the case, when we enter a higher realm, heaven's will would become our will. We would be able to control it with ease and not injure ourselves. Similarly, we wouldn't be able to harm others. Right now we are unable to do so because our cultivation bases aren't high enough. Qin Wentian's tone was as calm as ever. This was his opinion. Although it was the same as comprehending, different people would naturally have different insights. Have you seen people with a higher cultivation base doing this before? Shan Lingqiu mocked. His eyes were filled with mockery. Brother Shan is the eldest disciple of the Skyer Palace Lord, a grand disciple of the Realm Lord. You have heard the Realm Lord's Tao lectures before. Morong Xiaoxiao giggled. There's a difference in comprehending the Tao. I'm merely stating my opinion. Also, I stand by my opinion. Qin Wentian laughed. In that case, you feel that although you comprehended the Tao later, you have comprehended the Tao before me? Shan Lingqiu's voice was sharp as a terrifying sword intent gushed forth. Since this is the case, why don't you spar with me and we will know? Brother Shan, this is merely a Tao discussion. Brother Tianwen is merely stating his opinion. There's no need to harm the harmony between us. Yi Qing persuaded, faintly feeling that Qin Wentian's words were logical. However, he naturally wouldn't say this out loud. Chapter 1646. Qin Wentian glanced at Shan Lingqiu. He smiled. When they formed the alliance, he already understood that the so-called alliance was merely a way for the weak to protect themselves by relying on the strong. Such an alliance was extremely fragile before benefits. When they formed the alliance, because of Shan Lingqiu's identity, everyone in the alliance was fawning over him. This Shan Lingqiu himself was also an extraordinary character, and in addition to his identity, he was naturally extremely proud. Hence, when Shan Lingqiu raised a different opinion, he treated it as a provocation and suggested a spar. Qin Wentian calmly shook his head. He stared ahead and didn't say anything more. His pride wasn't like Shan Lingqiu's. He couldn't tolerate the different opinions of others. He had his own comprehensions, and if Shan Lingqiu also insisted on his point of view, what did that have to do with him? Could it be that if someone had a different opinion he would have to spar with them to prove that he was right? Naturally, the reason why Shan Lingqiu would act this way was because he viewed himself too highly. If he knew that Tianwen was none other than Qin Wentian, he might be able to tolerate Tianwen's different opinions. Now that he was angered, it was only because he felt that Qin Wentian didn't have the qualifications to question his comprehensions in public. This was especially so in front of a beauty. Even if Shan Lingqiu didn't display too much passion for Morong Xiaoxiao, being admired by a beauty would still be able to satisfy his vanity. He naturally wouldn't want to lose face. Brother Shan, How can he spar with you? Why do you care about his opinion? Ilian spoke at this moment. As for the other four from the 4 desolate palaces, they fell silent and watched quietly. At the same time, they were pondering over the words spoken by Qin Wentian and Shan Lingqiu earlier. From the surface, it seemed that Shan Lingqiu was right. However, if one pondered deeply, Qin Wentian's words weren't wrong. Since humans could control their own energy without harming themselves, did this mean that energy itself was controllable? There was no absolute. Could the true origin source of law exist in many different forms? The more one thought about it, the more they would feel a trace of comprehension. It was just that they had no way to grasp it. Even so, they still wouldn't express their support for Qin Wentian. The Sword River continued flowing. In the depths of the abyss ahead, sword intent could be faintly felt, flowing against the current. This caused the gazes of everyone to stiffen as their immortal senses probed the depths of the abyss. In an instant, the eyes of many narrowed as someone exclaimed in shock, "There's someone there!" Someone actually appeared in the abyss. Numerous sharp gazes turned downwards, only to see a silhouette slowly ascending. The Sword River flowed against the current, converging with the Sword River that was flowing downwards. After that, the Sword River shot out in all directions. Poochie! A crisp sound rang out. One of them lowered his head and stared at his chest. There numerous holes could be seen. It was as though a stream of water had flowed through his body, leaving behind these holes. After which, fresh blood flowed out of the holes, resembling flowing water. Ah! That person let out a miserable howl as he retreated explosively. In an instant, numerous silhouettes hurriedly retreated with fear on their faces. The Sword Chi River that was like water splashing in all directions seemed gentle and formless, yet it contained a terrifying destructive power. This seemed to prove Shan Lingqiu's words earlier. Maybe the form of a sword could be changed, but the innate essence of a sword was incomparably sharp. There was no sword that wouldn't kill. However, when they stared at the silhouette that appeared in the abyss again, this conclusion seemed to be overturned. Qin Wentian's words seemed to be correct. That person was immersed in the Sword River, and didn't use any energy to resist it. The Sword River flowed through his body slowly, resembling real water droplets, terrifying to the extreme. Is this the sword intent he released himself? Shan Lingqiu retreated as he spoke. However, he felt that he was lying to himself. That sword intent was clearly something that was naturally formed, a product of the Taotai mine. It was an external source of power, but when your cultivation base was strong enough, it seemed that you could really change its form, causing the sword to become gentler. Seems like one would be able to do this after comprehending the origin of laws. Qin Wentian mumbled. He glanced at Shan Lingqiu. In that case, the Skyer Empyrean would be able to do this as well. Didn't he tell you about this before? Shan Lingqiu's expression stiffened as his countenance grew increasingly unsightly. Yeah, sometimes, you have to comprehend it yourself. Only then would it truly be yours. If I told you directly, you might end up in a predicament. Although you know about it, you wouldn't be able to comprehend it. Since that's the case, you might as well comprehend it directly. I'm sure the Skyer Empyrean must have told you many times to sense his strength, right? Qin Wentian sighed. His tone was calm. He didn't exude any arrogance. He was contemplating in his heart as he immersed himself in his own insights. Shut up. Shan Lingqiu coldly spoke. Qin Wentian started, but he didn't say anything more. Murong Xiaoxiao was stunned, but she still had a smile on her face. She stared at Shan Lingqiu. The truth might not be what we see. I still believe that you are right. This was purely words of flattery. Shan Lingqiu nodded to Murong Xiaoxiao. His proud and vain heart would feel more comfortable only by doing this. Qin Wentian no longer looked at Shan Lingqiu. He was staring at the person who appeared from the abyss. That person was actually squatting there, and was sharpening his sword. He placed the sword on the grindstone, allowing the boundless Sword Chi River to flow on it, causing the surface of the sword to be as smooth as ever. His long hair was in an extremely disheveled state, resembling a madman. He was clad in black robes that were stained with countless bloodstains. His robes were also extremely tattered. He had been sharpening his sword. There were no distractions in his heart. Finally, He inclined his head as a terrifying cold light gleamed in his eyes, incomparably resplendent. That gaze seemed to contain a supreme sword intent that could lacerate everything, penetrating through everything. 1,000 years of sharpening a sword. Today, the sword has been completed. A sharp voice rang out from his mouth. After that, the grindstone fell from the air. He picked up the sword with his palm, and with a wave of his hand, the sword that he had sharpened for 1,000 years was directly destroyed by him. 1,000 years of sharpening a sword. The sword was completed, all for the sake of destruction? During these 1,000 years, was he sharpening that sword, or was he sharpening his own sword? With a flash of his silhouette, he transformed into a beam of light, resembling a sword. His body was the sword. With a piercing sound, blood splattered out. A figure didn't even have the time to scream before his head was separated from his body. That sword light continued to fly out at the speed of a meteor, like a sword ray. Puff 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 sounds continuously rang out, and one figure after another was slain, directly falling on the spot. Seeing this scene, the crowd was shocked, and their expressions changed. Emperor's might erupted from their bodies, and at the same time, they rapidly retreated. Law origin. Is this the law intent of swords? Qin Wentian's heart trembled. What a powerful might. He saw a peak-stage immortal emperor, using an extremely powerful defense, manifesting a law domain, and creating an indestructible space. However, his defense was directly penetrated by the sword intent, slaying him. There were also experts who used their divine weapons to protect themselves, blocking in front of them. However, the sword light directly disintegrated and flowed along their divine weapons, passing through their divine weapons in an instant, entering the side of their body and killing them. There was no way to block it at all. This expert who walked out from the abyss should already be someone who stood at the unrivaled level in the immortal emperor realm. In fact, he might have already come into contact with the empyreans of the 9 world palaces. 1,000 years of sharpening a sword. After he appeared, he directly used others to test his sword. This person's cultivation speed was almost crazy. In his eyes, there was only his sword. So many experts here were merely objects for him to sharpen his sword and not lives. He was truly emotionless to the extreme. Could this be the so-called, the great Tao is emotionless? Shan Lingqiu and the others were also retreating. Morong Xiaoxiao was hiding behind Shan Lingqiu. The group of them retreated with Shan Lingqiu in the center while radiating terrifying emperor light. That beam of sword light transformed into a human again. He smiled and glanced at everyone before turning to Shan Lingqiu and the others. Shan Lingqiu's expression drastically changed. A terrifying aura gushed forth from him as sword light flashed resplendently. With a single sword strike, boundless light seemed to be able to slash apart the heavens and earth as it shot towards his opponent. However, that madman continued moving forward, as though he didn't care at all. When Shan Lingqiu's sword intent landed on his opponent, the sword intent actually became incomparably gentle, flowing through his body. At this moment, Shan Lingqiu's countenance turned pale. At the same time, this also proved that he was wrong. When one was strong enough, they would be able to change the rules. Using the power of the sword to attack that madman is simply courting death. Not far away, Qin Wentian instantly understood when he saw this scene. This expert who came out from the abyss had comprehended the origin source of the sword. This was a qualitative change, directly suppressing you in terms of comprehension. How could your sword Dao still be able to attack him? You were directly suppressed. This was an absolute suppression of comprehension. You also understand the sword? That madman mocked. A moment later, boundless sword might flowed in reverse, landing on Shan Lingqiu. It was like flowing water, flowing through Shan Lingqiu's body. Shan Lingqiu's body trembled unceasingly. His eyes were filled with boundless terror. Senior, I'm a disciple of the Skyer Palace Lord, the grandson of the lifelong Realm Lord. I hope that Senior can show mercy. In the face of danger, Shan Lingqiu directly admitted defeat, revealing his background. This caused the eyes of the madman to flash. The lifelong Realm Lord's grand disciple? This Taotai mine was still under the jurisdiction of the lifelong Realm Lord. In addition, it was also in the territory of the lifelong realm. If he really offended the lifelong Realm Lord, Even if his cultivation base improved greatly now, only death would await him. Since this is the case, let me teach you a lesson on behalf of the lifelong Realm Lord. In the future, you better focus on your cultivation. That madman coldly spoke. A moment later, Boundless Sword Might enveloped Shan Lingqiu's body and tossed him down. His sword intent was his will, he could control it according to his will. Shan Lingqiu was tossed onto the ground. His entire body was drenched in sweat. If it wasn't for the protection of his identity, he would have died with a single thought from this madman. Chapter 1647. Are you guys also the grand disciples of the Realm Lord? That madman turned his gaze to Morong Xiaoxiao and the others. Before this, these people had always been together with Shan Lingqiu. Hence he asked this question. If they were really the grand disciples of the Realm Lord, he naturally wouldn't act against them. 1,000 years to sharpen a sword. He had been silent for too long, he had been alone for too long. Now that his sword was formed, he wanted to test it out with his blood and feel the transcendent energy in his body. He felt extremely joyful. Hence, he tossed aside everything, no longer suppressing his impudent heart, and started a massacre. We are all good friends of Brother Shan. Morong Xiaoxiao and the others spoke. Is that so? The madman glanced at Shan Lingqiu only to see Shan Lingqiu shaking his head. I'm not familiar with them. At this moment, the countenances of Morong Xiaoxiao and the others turned as pale as paper. They stared at Shan Lingqiu in rage. This bastard was actually so heartless, wanting to harm them all. Shan Lingqiu himself almost died. He didn't want to antagonize Qin Wentian anymore. There was no need for him to plead for mercy for these people. Although Morong Xiaoxiao was very beautiful, given his status he wouldn't lack women. Usually he wouldn't mind it, but at this moment he couldn't care so much. Also, he had made a fool of himself today, losing all face. It would be better if these people died. Brother Shan, aren't your actions a little too despicable? Said someone from the four palaces of the desolate ground. However, as the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying stream of sword energy directly pierced through him. In an instant, a bloody mark appeared on his forehead. As soon as the sound of his voice faded, he collapsed to the ground. At the same time, a terrifying sword light chased after those who wanted to escape. His control over the law of swords has already reached a transcendent level. He could do as he pleased. Killing people from 1,000,000 miles away was extremely easy. There was basically no way for them to escape. Still fleeing. Sword Madman coldly laughed. His gaze was extremely terrifying. Senior has already transcended the immortal Emperor realm. Why must you make things difficult for us? I Ching stared at the madman as he spoke. I like it. That madman laughed. 1,000 years of sharpening a sword. Now that I've finally obtained the Great Tao, how can I not indulge myself? Finally obtain the Great Tao? A voice suddenly rang out. However, comprehending the origin source of the law of swords is equivalent to obtaining the Great Tao. If this is the Great Tao, what is the Realm Lord? This voice was somewhat ear-piercing. Everyone was somewhat astonished. Who would be so daring? They turned their gazes one after another. I Ching and the others actually saw Qin Wentian. They couldn't help but be stunned. This guy actually dared to speak at this time. Was he courting death? The madman also looked at Qin Wentian, revealing a look of interest. There was actually someone who wasn't afraid of death. He smiled and asked, in your opinion, what is the Great Tao? Although one has comprehended the origin of the natural order, and possesses extraordinary power, the Great Tao is ethereal. Can this be considered comprehending the Great Tao? Now, Senior has given birth to the Dharmic will, and you can use the Dharmic will to control the will of the rules, and do as you please. It can even be said that Heaven's will is your will, but can it really be done? Qin Wentian spoke. Leaving aside Senior's cultivation base, even for Realm Lords, they wouldn't be able to represent the Great Tao of heaven and earth, using their own will to represent Heaven's will. I thought that the Great Tao will forever be supreme, unless there comes a day when I can truly reach the state where Heaven's will is my will, and my will is Heaven's will. My will can cause the world to tremble. My will can control the fate of all lives. If Senior truly obtained the Great Tao, Why would there be a need for you to use such brutal methods to deal with everyone here? At that time, only then would you truly be able to control the fate of the world. Why would you use cruel killing methods to prove your own accomplishments? This is merely a minor Tao. The smile on the madman's face grew even more intense. He stared at Qin Wentian and laughed. Your comprehension abilities are truly not bad. Before this, you have already comprehended the formless law. Now, I have to admit that your words are logical. I kill people because I want to satisfy my achievement of sharpening my sword for 1,000 years. But so what of it? As long as I like it. Hence, even if what you said is right, I will still kill you. Senior, please enlighten me. Qin Wentian spoke. The madman's gaze froze as he stared at Qin Wentian in astonishment. Please enlighten him? Could it be that Qin Wentian felt that he could fight against him? Seeing the law energy erupting from Qin Wentian, the madman laughed, revealing a row of white teeth, exuding an evil charm. With an intention of his will, a sword river appeared, gushing towards Qin Wentian. That terrifying sword river seemed to want to drown and destroy Qin Wentian completely. Qin Wentian didn't have any sword laws on him. Instead, the Buddhist path's law energy formed an indestructible golden body, transforming into a diamond body that protected his body, impervious to all attacks. The terrifying sword river instantly became extremely sharp, emitting terrifying screeches. However, when it slammed into the Buddhist path's law energy, it was met with a powerful resistance. Although the sword intent continued to corrode, it was unable to directly destroy the Buddhist path's law energy. This was the first time the sword madman encountered such a situation after he sharpened his sword. Killing others would be as easy as blowing off dust. But at this moment, the sword river was actually blocked. The gazes of Morong Xiaoxiao and the others froze as they stared in shock at the scene before them. The Buddhist path's law energy was actually able to block the attack of the madman? This Tianwen was actually so powerful? Before this, when the madman acted against Shan Lengqiu, he easily subdued Shan Lengqiu. The difference in strength between Shan Lengqiu and Qin Wentian could be seen with a single glance. However, not long ago when the two of them discussed the Tao, they had different opinions. Shan Lengqiu was extremely domineering, suggesting a spar while Qin Wentian evaded. At that time, they all thought that Qin Wentian didn't dare to fight. But from the looks of things now, it seemed a little ironic. Shan Lengqiu was clearly wrong and his strength was inferior to Qin Wentian's, yet he was still so domineering. Regardless of strength or comprehension, Qin Wentian was stronger compared to Shan Lengqiu. Yet Qin Wentian kept a low profile. Thinking of this, the disparity between the two of them was obvious. Yi Qing and the others coldly glanced at Shan Lengqiu, their gazes filled with mockery. This was truly ironic. They followed Shan Lengqiu, but were abandoned by him without any hesitation. On the contrary, it was Qin Wentian who spoke at this moment that temporarily resolved the danger they were in. Shan Lengqiu's expression was extremely unsightly. He who had always been lofty, at this moment, seemed extremely insignificant and petty. When he sensed the disdainful gazes of Yi Qing and the others, his expression contorted. That madman had a look of bewilderment on his face when he saw Qin Wentian's defense. He waved his sword and instantly, boundless sword might manifested, slamming into the Buddhist path Dharma body. These swords were either heavy swords that could shake the heavens or sharp swords that were incomparably sharp. Qin Wentian's Buddhist path Dharma body expanded unceasingly. Countless runes flashed within, intersecting with one another, resembling a grand formation. Layers of energy blocked the attacks, but the Buddhist path Dharma body was still shattered. The attacks from the origin source swords were simply too terrifying. Even the golden Vajra body found it hard to endure. One must know that after tens of years of cultivation, Qin Wentian has already broken through to the peak stage of the Immortal Emperor realm. Back then when he was at the mid-stage of the Immortal Emperor realm, he could already defeat many Supreme Peak Stage Empyreans. Given his current cultivation base, Supreme Emperors couldn't even withstand a single strike from him. All of his astral souls were from the 8th heavenly layer. From this, one could very well imagine how strong his comprehension of laws was. At this moment, Qin Wentian's gigantic Buddhist path Dharma body manifested many arms, expanding in size at the same time, taking the initiative to attack instead of passively defending. Many people felt their hearts trembling. Facing against an expert who had comprehended the source origins of laws, Qin Wentian actually still had the strength to retaliate. The madman's gaze froze as his hair fluttered in the wind. He raised his hand and performed a sword art. Terrifying lotus sword intense manifested in the air, manifesting from the sword river. Numerous sword-shaped lotuses continued to grow, blotting out everything and wrapping around the incoming arms, shredding them into pieces bit by bit. The lotus sword that could annihilate everything shot towards Qin Wentian's body, expanding unceasingly, transforming into a great destructive lotus that could devour everything, wanting to envelop Qin Wentian's body within. Numerous spatial gates appeared in all directions as a terrifying pair of eyes of truth appeared in the air, directly locking onto the madman, instantly sealing him within his domain. Qin Wentian himself then stepped into the spatial gate, vanishing from sight. In the next instant he appeared before the madman, piercing through the lotus swords. The madman instantly broke free from the spatial domain of the eyes of truth. However, what welcomed him was an incomparably resplendent beam of light. Boom! The sword intent instantly enveloped him, transforming him into a sword. The fist of light blasted out, forcing him back, directly flying into the sword river. His body arched slightly before he stood up straight again. Under his messy long hair, his eyes grew even more terrifying. He was actually forced back by Qin Wentian. The people in the surroundings all felt their hearts trembling as they stared in shock at Qin Wentian. That madman who spent 1,000 years sharpening his sword, using his blood to sharpen his sword. He was numb to killing, yet he was actually blocked by this supreme immortal emperor. You are not Tianwen. You are Qin Wentian, the governor of Lifefire City. Tens of years ago, during the grand banquet of the lifelong realm, Qin Wentian defeated 8 world palace lords and monarchs with a cultivation base at the mid-stage of the immortal emperor realm. I Ching suddenly spoke. Although he wasn't there, he had heard of that battle before. Qin Wentian and Di Tian were simply too famous. There were people who described that battle before. I Ching thought of Tianwen's name, and a thought flashed in his mind. He then thought of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian? The people from the 4 desolate palaces and Murong Xiaoxiao froze. They have also heard of this name before. This man was known as one of the supreme young immortal emperors, with the most potential in the lifelong realm. Compared to him, Shan Lingqiu, who was the top ranker of the lifelong realm 2 years ago, didn't seem to have much weight at all. Qin Wentian was a mid-stage immortal emperor back then. Now he was already a peak-stage immortal emperor. However, this Qin Wentian was different from Shan Lingqiu. He was truly low-profile enough. That madman frowned when he heard that Qin Wentian was a character admired by the Realm Lord. He then spoke. Your law energy is very strong, but you might not be able to block my law source origins. Senior, other than your sword law energy being superior to mine, I'm not inferior in any other aspects. It wouldn't be easy for Senior to defeat me. Qin Wentian spoke. Even if this is true, if I want to kill you, how can you block me? That madman coldly laughed. I can't block you, but in the future I will definitely be able to kill you. Qin Wentian stared at his opponent as he spoke. Chapter 1648. Right now, Qin Wentian was already at the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm. However, his opponent had already transcended mortality and entered sainthood, having comprehended the source origins of laws, transcending mortality and undergoing a qualitative transformation. No matter how strong Qin Wentian's combat prowess was, it was still impossible for him to jump levels and kill Empyreans right now. After fighting against his opponent, Qin Wentian also deeply felt how terrifying characters at this level were. Also, this was merely comprehending the origin source of a single law attribute. If he could comprehend the origin source of multiple laws, how terrifying would that be? The qualitative change would surely overwhelm his transcendent combat prowess. Even if his astral souls were powerful, he would still find it hard to resist. Naturally, if Qin Wentian himself also comprehended the source origins of laws, things would be different. He was confident that he would be able to easily kill this madman before him. Qin Wentian's threatening voice caused the madman to stare at him. An evil smile appeared on his face as he spoke. It's rare for me to meet such an interesting person. Since this is the case, I will spare their lives. However, if you think it's so easy to comprehend the source origins of laws, you are gravely mistaken. I've been sharpening my sword for 1,000 years. Killing them is merely testing my sword. It's fine even if I don't kill them. I'm very curious. How many years do you need to comprehend the source origins of laws? There's no need for Senior to worry about this. Qin Wentian was still smiling. That madman laughed evilly. After that, his silhouette flashed as he transformed into a sword and vanished in the blink of an eye. After he left, the gazes of everyone turned to Qin Wentian, as they heaved a sigh of relief. Numerous figures walked over and bowed to Qin Wentian. Many thanks for saving our lives. Senior's strength is truly extraordinary. You are actually able to fight against Empyreans. I'm truly impressed. I've long heard of Brother Qin's name. Now that I've seen you today, not only is your reputation well-deserved, my horizons have truly been broadened. Yi Qing walked over and clasped his hands to Qin Wentian. In the past, if I was disrespectful in any way, I hope Brother Qin can forgive me. Today, if it wasn't for Brother Qin saving us, I'm afraid all of us would have died. It's nothing much. Qin Wentian smiled, appearing as easygoing as ever. Brother Qin, you have truly concealed yourself well. If I had known you were so powerful, I would have hugged your thigh tightly. Morong Xiaoxiao walked over and smiled gently. Ilian glanced at Morong Xiaoxiao, feeling some disgust in her heart. This woman was truly shameless enough. She didn't know how she managed to cultivate to her current level. Her beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wentian, as she felt a sense of melancholy in her heart. Before this, she hadn't noticed that he was actually so handsome. His demeanor was extremely outstanding, and his entire person radiated a brilliant light. Compared to Shan Lingqiu, who was standing below, the two of them basically had no way to be mentioned in the same breath. Shan Lingqiu wasn't qualified to be compared to Qin Wentian. Although Yi Lian loathed how thick-skinned Morong Xiaoxiao was, she also felt an impulse to rush over. At this moment, Qin Wentian spoke to Morong Xiaoxiao. I've never concealed anything. It's just that Brother Shan is too outstanding, to the extent that even Fairy Morong wants to be friends with you. This is only human nature. Although Qin Wentian had a smile on his face, there was a hint of rejection in his eyes. Upon hearing this, Yi Lian also dispelled the thought of rushing over. That's right. Before this, all of them were hugging Shan Lingqiu, ignoring Qin Wentian. In fact, she even mocked him. Now that they saw that he was powerful, they immediately rushed over. What did this mean? The fact that Qin Wentian was willing to help them earlier could already be considered to be extremely benevolent and magnanimous. If it was someone narrow-minded, they would have already died. Everyone, there's no need to be so polite. Cultivation isn't easy. We came to the Taotai mine for the sake of cultivation. I hope everyone will be able to gain some benefits. Qin Wentian clasped his hands to the crowd. After that, he stepped forward and walked out of the crowd. Everyone opened up a path for him, their eyes filled with gratitude. Morong Xiaoxiao had an awkward expression on her face. She naturally understood that the so-called alliance between them naturally no longer existed. What does he want to do? At this moment, the eyes of everyone flashed as they stared at Qin Wentian. They saw Qin Wentian actually walking into the sword river that cascaded down from the sky. The sword river contained a torrential sword intent, flowing endlessly. Above Qin Wentian, a Dharma body appeared, blocking the corrosion of the sword river. He wants to learn from that madman, using the sword river to temper himself, comprehending the source origins of swords. The hearts of everyone trembled. Before this, when Qin Wentian and Shan Lingqiu discussed the Tao, the topic was the sword. From this point, one could tell that Qin Wentian was proficient in the sword. Also, his comprehension of swords would only be deeper compared to Shan Lingqiu. Since he was proficient in sword intent, why couldn't Qin Wentian do the same, since Jian Fengzi was able to enter the Tao in the abyss back then? The crowd only saw Qin Wentian's body sinking deeper and deeper into the abyss. Finally, he vanished from the vision of everyone. daring to temper the sword in the abyss. Other than having a high enough comprehension ability, one must also have extraordinary strength. If not, they wouldn't be able to resist the corrosion of the sword river, and would be directly destroyed. Someone spoke. They could only stay at the side of the sword river. They didn't dare to enter. Numerous figures flashed. Each of the experts stood in a corner, and continued to comprehend the source origins of the sword river. With the earlier battle with Sword Madman, their desire grew even stronger in their hearts. Naturally, there were some more cautious people who chose to leave. They were worried that Qin Wentian would go crazy and kill his way back. If that was the case, they would be in dire straits. Shan Lingqiu didn't leave either. He walked to the side of the sword river and sat down. His eyes gleamed with a terrifying sharpness. He wanted to regain his lost face. In that case, he had to comprehend the source origins earlier than Qin Wentian, transcending mortality and entering sainthood. Murong Xiaoxiao and the others have already been abandoned by Shan Lingqiu once, and were almost killed. They naturally wouldn't bother Shan Lingqiu anymore. The group of them were like strangers, they didn't know each other. Murong Xiaoxiao and the others also didn't dare to take revenge on Shan Lingqiu. No matter how despicable Shan Lingqiu was, his strength was still there. In addition, given his identity as the grand disciple of the Realm Lord, no one would really act against him. In the blink of an eye, several years passed. During these years, Shan Lingqiu had been sitting there, comprehending his sword intent. It was like he wouldn't rest until he reached the path of the sword. Many of those who were saved by Qin Wentian back then were here. Some of them wanted to cultivate while others wanted to leave. But because they wanted to see Qin Wentian one more time, and see when he would come out, they chose to stay and continue comprehending. Sometimes curiosity was also a powerful driving force. In the depths of the abyss, a figure was enveloped in light, resembling a screen of light. When the sword river cascaded onto the screen, the sword river transformed into droplets of sword intent that seeped into Qin Wentian's body. However, Qin Wentian felt a terrifying sharpness, wanting to destroy everything in his body. Qin Wentian finally understood why the clothes of the madman earlier were tattered, and there were so many bloodstains on his body. Clearly, that madman was the same as him, enduring this inhumane pain. Not only was he comprehending, he was also using his flesh and blood to sharpen his sword. Could it be that after he achieved the path of the sword, he would indulge himself to do whatever he wanted and start a massacre? Most probably, this process was too painful, and he had suppressed himself for too long. He wanted to go crazy for a moment. Fresh blood appeared at the corner of Qin Wentian's lips. A look of agony could be seen on his face, but he still endured it. Only by personally experiencing the power of the source origin of the sword would he be able to sense it more clearly. By repeating this, Qin Wentian comprehended it bit by bit. He could feel the sharpness of the sword, the tyranny of the sword, and the gentleness of the sword. The source origin of the law contained many different forms of the law. As long as you were strong enough, you would be able to control them all. The sword intent would be your own will. However, knowing was one thing, truly comprehending it was another matter. Time continued to flow by. Qin Wentian's comprehension of the law grew increasingly deeper. His cultivation base continued to stabilize, truly reaching the peak of the immortal emperor realm. It was as though he was only a step away from comprehending the source origin of the laws. Today, Qin Wentian stood there as the river of swords flowed past him. Right now, he no longer resisted and was completely immersed in the river of swords. His white robes were already stained with blood, but right now, when the river of swords flowed past him, he didn't move at all. There was no longer the pain he felt in the past. He merely closed his eyes, appearing incomparably serene, as though he had entered a wondrous state. Why was it that the river of swords didn't injure him? The source origin of the sword contained many different forms of the sword. If he could truly sense the gentleness of the sword, this sword naturally wouldn't be able to injure him. More importantly, this indicated that he could already faintly control the form of the sword. However, at this moment, Qin Wentian seemed to be completely unaware of this. He was still immersed in his own world, as though he was in a state of enlightenment. It has already been over 10 years since Qin Wentian entered the Taotai mine. Today, The river of swords continued to cascade down like in the past, flowing through Qin Wentian's body. Qin Wentian, who had his eyes closed, finally opened them as a faint smile could be seen in his resplendent eyes. Raising his head, Zhang Xian saw that the river of swords was flowing in reverse, going against the flow and heading up into the sky. At this moment, in the surroundings of the river of swords, there were still many experts. One batch left and another batch came. Shan Lingqiu, Morong Xiaoxiao and the others were still here. Shan Lingqiu was filled with reluctance in his heart. Before he comprehended the sword Dao, he vowed not to leave. At this moment, the gazes of everyone froze. All of them stared in terror at the scene below. They only saw a terrifying aura gushing over. In the next instant, all of them retreated explosively. They saw a heavenly river of swords flowing upwards, resembling a desolate primordial beast, gushing towards the sky, transforming into a fearsome tempest. As long as a wisp of the tempest's intent gushed out, it might be able to kill an immortal emperor. Everyone who retreated to the distance stared at the storm in front of them. In the next moment, their eyes froze again. In the center of the sword storm, there was actually a figure standing there. He was dressed in white and was stained with blood. He stood in the center of the sword storm like a true god that would be worshipped by all living beings. Chapter 1649. This scene was somewhat similar to the madman who appeared in the past. Those who had witnessed the madman's breakthrough before understood. Qin Wentian had stepped into that level, transcending mortality and entering sainthood, transcending immortal emperors. How terrifying! Many people felt their hearts trembling. Morong Xiaoxiao and the others stared in shock at Qin Wentian. Tens of years ago, he was merely a mid-stage immortal emperor during the lifelong grand banquet. Now in just tens of years, he had broken through consecutively, breaking through the limits of the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm, stepping into this realm that countless people yearned for. As for that madman, he was said to have sharpened his sword for 1,000 years. From this, one could very well imagine how terrifying the disparity between them was. This is what comprehension is. Maybe, although he is at the mid-stage of the immortal emperor realm, his comprehension has already surpassed many peak-stage immortal emperors, or even transcendent-stage immortal emperors. For example, Shan Lingqiu. Back then when the two of them discussed the sword Dao, Qin Wentian clearly had a deeper comprehension of the sword compared to Shan Lingqiu. Congratulations, senior. Yi Qing spoke. Right now he didn't even refer to Qin Wentian as Brother Qin. He should refer to him as senior instead. In the cultivation world, the strong were always revered. As for age, it wasn't something that could be seen with one's eyes. In addition, it didn't mean that he had to respect you just because you have lived longer. For example, in the lifelong realm, there might be some old fellows who had lived longer than the lifelong realm lord. But could it be that the realm lord would have to bow to them as juniors? Unless it was to the elders of his clan, or to people he deeply respected. Only then would he do so. For example, if Qin Wentian met some elders with lower cultivation bases, he would still refer to them as senior. This was a form of respect. But for strangers, he naturally wouldn't use age to determine seniority. It was strength. There's a difference in seniority in comprehending the Tao, but only those who can become an Empyrean are truly extraordinary. Someone sighed. In the past, I've heard that when one reached the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm, their cultivation base would already be at the peak of perfection. If one wants to take that final step, it can no longer be achieved by increasing one's cultivation base. Instead, it has to depend on one's comprehension. Some people could comprehend it in a single move while others couldn't. Now that senior has stepped into the Empyrean realm, this point has been verified. Yeah, before this, Senior Qin was already at the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm. But now, by relying on his comprehension abilities, he managed to reach this step in a mere 10+ years. We are all filled with admiration for him. Everyone's attitude changed again. 10 years ago, they were grateful to Qin Wentian for saving their lives, and they were already in awe of his powerful combat prowess. But now, they regarded Qin Wentian as a figure of another level. In their eyes, there was only respect for extraordinary figures. After Qin Wentian took this step, it meant that there was a real gap between them and a figure of another world. Although Qin Wentian had only comprehended a single law attribute, given his talent, since he could comprehend a single law attribute within 10+ years, most probably, he would be able to comprehend the other laws sooner or later. At that time, he would be a character on equal footing with the Empyreans of the 9 world palaces. Characters at that level were naturally lofty existences. Hence, the respect they had for Qin Wentian was extremely natural. Only Shan Lingqiu had a gloomy expression on his face. He only felt pain and torment in his heart. He had always been cultivating here, hoping that he would be able to break through one day. However, only 10+ years had passed. To cultivators at their level, this period of time was extremely short. He still hadn't comprehended anything, yet Qin Wentian had already broken through. When he thought of this, he felt extremely depressed. However, this was merely Shan Lingqiu's personal feeling. Qin Wentian didn't even glance at him. He stood in the storm and nodded lightly to everyone. After that, his silhouette flashed as he transformed into a beam of sword light and vanished from sight, directly leaving this place. Upon seeing Qin Wentian leaving, everyone felt a sense of disappointment and frustration. Their hearts had yet to calm down. Breaking through to the Empyrean realm within 10+ years? This was simply too terrifying. If Qin Wentian had already comprehended for many years, they might still be able to understand. However, they had all heard that tens of years ago, Qin Wentian was only at the mid-stage of the immortal emperor realm. However, Qin Wentian naturally wouldn't care about the thoughts of everyone. His entire person was like a beam of sword light, shuttling through the air. Not long after, he arrived at a flaming mountain. This flaming mountain exuded a terrifying heat, and in the center of the flaming mountain, there seemed to be a startling red color that resembled fresh blood. The redness caused one's heart to tremble. Qin Wentian enveloped his body with his sword intent. The sword law energy around him was like a layer of armor, enveloping him within. He stepped out step by step, entering the flaming mountain, and arriving at the center. Over here, there were many rocks that resembled fresh blood. The surroundings were filled with a blood-red gas. There were no other types of energy here, only flames could exist. Qin Wentian used his sword to pick them up before tossing them away. He knew that such a terrifying destructive or wouldn't be able to be taken away using an interspatial ring. It would directly incinerate the ring. Only an Empyrean would be able to store it. Qin Wentian walked around here for several days. After that, he transformed into a sword and left, continuing to roam the Taotai mine. He didn't come here for the ores, he came here for his cultivation. Time continued to flow. Qin Wentian didn't care about external affairs, temporarily pushing everything to the back of his mind. The news of Princess Kitamura in the past had greatly stimulated him. Without strength, there was nothing he could do about all of this. During these years when Qin Wentian disappeared, there were incidents happening every day in Lifefire City. However, the greatest incident was still the death of the Jelon Monarch. This matter had yet to be investigated, and it was said that the Lifefire Empyrean was infuriated because of this. He continued to announce that the Lifefire Empyrean was in charge of all the regions under the Lifefire Palace's control, using extremely great benefits to tempt the bandits to surrender themselves. Also, several years ago, there was actually a greedy person who came to the Lifefire Palace. This person was none other than one of the bandits from Heavenly City, and he used his immortal sense to sketch out the appearance of the bandit leader. However, no one was able to recognize this person. Zhuge Xiong suspected that this bandit leader must have changed his appearance. Also, this bandit leader's defenses were extremely tight. The bandits didn't know each other at all. There was basically no way for him to find any clues. Zhuge Xiong knew that it was basically hopeless to start investigating from the bandits. Hence, that immortal king who received the rewards was still fantasizing about his future. After enjoying a few years of good days in Lifefire City, he finally decided to leave the city and head to other places. However, on the first day he left the city, he was already killed by someone. All the cultivation resources he obtained, other than the ones he used up, were all taken back by someone else. Luckily, the other bandits didn't lose their rationality because of greed. That was why they didn't court their own deaths. In the Lifefire Palace, Zhuge Xiong was reporting this news to the Lifefire Empyrean. It has been so many years, but there's still no news about Jialan's death? The Lifefire Empyrean's voice was filled with unhappiness. Reporting to Palace Lord, the bandit leader only appeared once. Also, none of the bandits were acquainted with each other. I guess that the bandit leader who killed Jialan might have used some sort of disguise method. There's basically no clues at all. There's only one piece of news that is more suspicious. Zhuge Xiong spoke. What news? The Lifefire Empyrean asked. The Jialan clan made use of this matter to make a big fuss. Right now, even the lifelong Saint Hall knew about this and sent people to question them. This caused him to feel extremely unhappy. The gathering of the bandits seemed to have started from Heavenly City. And Heavenly City was the place where Yi Qianyu's Thousand Feathers Palace was located. Zhuge Xiong spoke. The eyes of the Lifefire Empyrean flashed with a terrifying sharpness. You still suspect Qin Wentian? Without evidence, this subordinate doesn't dare to suspect anyone. Zhuge Xiong lowered his head. Right now, Qin Wentian was no longer the same as before. He was no longer the Qin Wentian of the past. Zhuge Xiong, through these years, you have always been my follower. The matters in Lifefire City have always been handled by you. This seat has always trusted your intelligence. If you have anything to say, just say it, no matter who it implicates. The Lifefire Empyrean spoke. Zhuge Xiong had always been extremely intelligent. He was his advisor and was deeply trusted by the Lifefire Empyrean. Hence, Zhuge Xiong had always been the Grand Governor. Palace Lord, since this is the case, this seat will speak directly. According to our investigations, we know that Governor Qin is proficient in the art of disguise. Back then in Heavenly City, he had appeared with a different appearance. Zhuge Xiong analyzed. Also, after the Jialan monarch died, all of us instantly suspected him. But in truth, Governor Qin is indeed the most suspicious. But back then in the governor's manor, there were indeed many people who saw Qin Wentian leaving the governor's manor. There's no mistake about this matter. The Lifefire Empyrean spoke with certainty. This is exactly what this subordinate wants to say. What sort of character is Governor Qin? Does he need to give an explanation when he leaves? Those people from the governor's manor, which one of them would dare to disturb him normally? Although he did it very casually that day and didn't seem to be intentional, I still feel that he did it intentionally. The timing is too coincidental. Zhuge Xiong furrowed his brows. In addition, there's another very important point. Since Qin Wentian is proficient in disguise, in that case, wouldn't there be other cultivators who are proficient in disguise who could disguise themselves as Qin Wentian? Zhuge Xiong asked. The Lifefire Empyrean's eyes flashed when he heard this. After a moment of silence, he still shook his head. After leaving the governor's manor, if he cooperated with others, the risk would be too great. Also, who would have the guts to cooperate with Qin Wentian? I feel that this isn't reliable. Palace Lord is truly impressive. This subordinate also feels that this isn't reliable. Zhuge Xiong spoke. The Lifefire Empyrean glared at him. Since you said that this isn't reliable, why are you telling me this? Because this subordinate has an even bolder conjecture. Zhuge Xiong spoke. What conjecture? The Lifefire Empyrean asked. Qin Wentian must have cultivated some kind of avatar technique. This avatar technique is extremely powerful, allowing one to temporarily possess his aura. Zhuge Xiong spoke. In an instant, the Lifefire Empyrean's eyes flashed with an incomparably resplendent light. Zhuge Xiong's words seemed to have enlightened him. It was like everything was about to become clear. He felt that there was a very high possibility that this was the truth. Upon thinking of this, the Lifefire Empyrean's eyes narrowed as killing intent flashed in his eyes. Chapter 1650. Zhuge Xiong's words were completely possible. There were many powerful avatar techniques in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Even if the two were separated by millions of miles, they could still appear at the same time, and exist for a very long period of time. In fact, there were even some heaven-defying avatar techniques that could allow the avatar to fight at the same level as the original body. As to why they didn't think of this before, It was because this was a blind spot. When the Jialan monarch died, Qin Wentian appeared in the governor's manor. Very naturally, they wouldn't suspect him. However, Zhuge Xiong was extremely intelligent and had always been the brains of the Lifefire Palace. He was highly regarded by the Lifefire Empyrean, and after his investigations, he discovered that there was no way to continue investigating the Jialan monarch's death. This would become an unsolvable case. In addition, the only clue to this unsolved case was actually in Heavenly City. Hence, Zhuge Xiong had no choice but to reanalyze the situation and suspect the person who killed the Jialan monarch. He wanted to see if he could completely eliminate Qin Wentian's suspicions. After that, he discovered that Qin Wentian had a high possibility of killing the Jialan monarch. As long as he had an avatar, there was no way for him to continue investigating this unsolved case. Qin Wentian was the greatest suspect, hence the conversation today. The Lifefire Empyrean seemed to have been enlightened by Zhuge Xiong's words. He felt that this was the truth. Immediately summon all the governors other than Qin Wentian here for a discussion. The Lifefire Empyrean coldly spoke. Yes. Zhuge Xiong nodded. After that, he took out his messaging crystal and summoned all the governors. Upon receiving Zhuge Xiong's command, all the governors appeared in the Lifefire Palace and were brought to the Great Hall where the Lifefire Empyrean resided. In this region, everyone was a trusted aide of the Lifefire Empyrean. Palace Lord Grand Governor, what happened? Central Governor Sun Qian asked. He could sense that the atmosphere was somewhat different. The Lifefire Empyrean and Grand Governor seemed to have something important to announce. Zhuge, these people are all old people. Tell them what you said to me earlier. The Lifefire Empyrean spoke. Zhuge Xiong nodded and told everyone about his suspicions. After hearing his words, the eyes of all the governors flashed. The habitual smile on Beauty Zhao's face vanished as her expression turned heavy. One couldn't help but say that Zhuge Xiong's suspicions were very possible. Even for them, they faintly believed it. One must know that back then when the Jialan monarch died, almost everyone suspected that the killer was Qin Wentian. But because Qin Wentian appeared in the governor's manor, everyone dispelled their suspicions. But if it was like what Zhuge Xiong guessed, Qin Wentian had an avatar technique, there was no need to doubt this matter anymore. What do you all think? The Lifefire Empyrean asked. We still can't be certain that Governor Qin has an avatar. Palace Mistress, your subordinate feels that this isn't too appropriate. Beauty Xiao spoke. Beauty Xiao, just because Governor Qin is handsome, you want to speak up for him? Inqiu spoke in a neutral tone. Oh yeah, back then in Lifelong City, Governor Qin even helped you resolve the humiliation from the Sword Spirit Sect's Xiao clan. I'm just stating the facts. What do you mean by this? Beauty Xiao stared at Inqiu. Right now, Inqiu had already given up on Beauty Xiao. This woman had always looked down on him. Since this was the case, there was no need for him to be polite. Everyone knows that the Jialan monarch died. The possibility of Qin Wentian being the culprit is the highest. Given the strength he displayed back then in Lifelong City, as well as his attack-type innate techniques, it wouldn't be strange even if he hid an avatar. There's an 80 to 90% chance that the Jialan monarch was killed by him. You are the first to speak up for him. Don't tell me you have already hooked up with him? Inqiu mocked. He and Qin Wentian had never been on good terms. Enough. The Lifefire Empyrean couldn't help but interrupt when he saw the two of them arguing. Speak the truth, don't argue. Lin Ba, Sun Qian. What do you two think? Palace Lord, this subordinate will completely respect Palace Lord's decision. Sun Qian spoke, purely bootlicking. However, his bootlicking was very appropriate, because he knew that since the Lifefire Empyrean gathered them here to discuss this matter, it definitely wasn't just to ask for their opinions. Zhuge Xiong has already said that there was no way to investigate this matter. In that case, everything would depend on a single thought. Sun Qian was able to sit in the central governor's position after Xia Ho. He was naturally an extremely intelligent person. Although he appeared amicable on the surface, he was actually very astute. I can't exclude that possibility. Lin Ba's reply conformed to the norm. He didn't dare to confirm nor deny. The various governors all had different opinions. Their gazes all landed on the Lifefire Empyrean. There was no evidence. Ultimately, no matter what the Livefire Empyrean thinks, it would be the truth. Since this matter had already become an unresolved case, if the Livefire Empyrean said that Qin Wentian was the killer, he would be the killer. If he said he wasn't, he wouldn't be the killer. Everything would depend on a single thought. Beauty Zhao's beautiful eyes were filled with nervousness. Right now, Qin Wentian's wings had yet to fully grow. If the Livefire Empyrean wanted to deal with him, things would truly be dire. No one is allowed to leak this matter out. For the past few times when the tributes are due, Qin Wentian didn't return but sent someone over instead. Right now the deadline of 10 years is almost here. Zhuge Xiong, send a message to him that he has to personally make a trip to the Livefire Palace on the day of the tributes. I have something to discuss with him. The Livefire Empyrean slowly spoke. After that, the eyes of everyone flashed. They all understood that this sentence of the Livefire Empyrean was equivalent to announcing his attitude and his decision. Qin Wentian was going to be in dire straits. The Livefire Empyrean wanted to deal with him, nipping the threat in the cradle. They all understood that if the Jialan Monarch was killed by Qin Wentian, given how impulsive this man was, he would definitely kill the Livefire Empyrean sooner or later when he had enough strength. Back then, the Jialan Monarch was the one who carried out the mission, but the order was given by the Livefire Palace. They even sent experts to coordinate with him. Palace Lord, the current Qin Wentian is different from the past. Back then during the grand banquet in the lifelong realm, even the Realm Lord regarded him highly. Wouldn't it be too inappropriate? Wouldn't it affect the Realm Lord's opinion of you? Yin Xiao seemed to be very loyal, thinking for the Livefire Empyrean. However, Beauty Xiao coldly glanced at him. This was clearly trying to provoke the Livefire Empyrean. The Livefire Empyrean coldly glanced at Yin Xiao, causing him to shiver. It was like the Livefire Empyrean had seen through him. On the day of tribute, all of you will come as well. At that time, I will ask Qin Wentian about this matter. You guys will be the witnesses. A governor disguised as a bandit and killed the monarch of my Livefire Palace. This is already considered a traitor, betraying the Livefire Palace and the lifelong realm. He shall be executed on the spot. The Livefire Empyrean coldly spoke. Yes, Palace Lord. Yin Xiao bowed. Yes, Palace Lord. Lin Ba and Sun Qian bowed as well. This was the Livefire Palace. Who would dare to defy the Livefire Empyrean's words? He wanted to deal with Qin Wentian. In that case, no matter how outstanding Qin Wentian was, there was nothing he could do to reverse the situation. If there was no Jialan Monarch, things would still be fine. The Livefire Empyrean wouldn't be able to find an excuse to deal with him, and he wouldn't be able to answer to the lifelong Saint Hall. However, the Jialan Monarch's death was undoubtedly the best excuse. Yes, Palace Lord. Beauty Xiao nodded as well. Zhuge Xiong glanced at them. If anyone leaks the news today, you guys should know the consequences. The Livefire Empyrean calmly glanced at them. He was confident that no one would dare to leak his orders. He has controlled the Livefire Palace for so many years, and he naturally had this bit of prestige. In addition, these people wouldn't betray him for the sake of a mere Qin Wentian. This was simply courting death. Go on. The Livefire Empyrean waved his hand. After that, everyone bowed and retreated. After Beauty Xiao left the Livefire Palace, she sped along the way. She took out her messaging crystal and sent her immortal sense in. Reply quickly. What's the matter? A voice rang out in Beauty Xiao's mind. She sent another message into her messaging crystal. If Zhuge Xiong looks for you, don't reply no matter what. He and the Livefire Empyrean guessed that you might have cultivated an avatar technique, and the one who killed the Jialan Monarch is you. The Livefire Empyrean wants to deal with you. After her voice rang out, the other side fell silent for a moment before a reply rang out. Got it. Be careful. Beauty Xiao replied. After that, she kept her messaging crystal and continued on her way. A moment later she heard another voice, thank you. Upon hearing this voice, Beauty Xiao smiled sweetly. Her sexy red lips curled up in a suggestive manner. As expected, not long after Beauty Xiao sent the news to Qin Wentian, Zhuge Xiong also sent a message to him. Qin Wentian didn't reply. He knew that earlier, Beauty Xiao was fighting against time with Zhuge Xiong. If Zhuge Xiong sent the message first and he replied, it would mean that he already knew about it. But now, as long as he didn't reply, the Livefire Empyrean and Zhuge Xiong could only suspect him. There were many possibilities if he didn't reply. For example, he might be in danger, or he might have lost his messaging crystal. Since Qin Wentian knew about it, Di Tian naturally also knew about it. Right now he wasn't in Livefire City, but was in Lifelong City instead. Today, the Xianyuan clan hosted a banquet and invited Di Tian. The Emperor Pavilion was already flourishing in Livefire City. Right now, Di Tian was already expanding his influence in Lifelong City. There was no need to mention the Jialong clan. The Xianyuan clan also wanted to form a connection with him. In that case, it was naturally very easy for him to form a connection with them. Right now, Di Tian already rarely dealt with the matters of the Emperor Pavilion in Livefire City. All of them were handed over to his subordinates. Other than cultivating, he would occasionally appear in the various peak powers to socialize. Grandmaster Di, what are you thinking about? At this moment, an expert from the Xianyuan clan asked. Di Tian's eyes flashed under the mask as he smiled. Nothing much. However, in truth, he felt some fluctuations in his heart. He didn't expect that Zhuge Xiong would actually be able to guess that it was an avatar. Although he was certain that there wouldn't be any evidence for this, if the Livefire Empyrean was determined to kill him, there was no need for any evidence. He could just directly push the blame onto him. Seems like I have to make preparations in advance. Di Tian mused. Chapter 1651. Zhuge Xiong had no way to contact Qin Wentian. No matter what he said, there was no reply from Qin Wentian's side. He also personally went to the northern governor's manor and told the evil emperor and the others to contact Qin Wentian. However, the evil emperor tried to contact Qin Wentian in front of him, but he still failed. Also, from the expression of the evil emperor at that time, he seemed to be worried, afraid that something might have happened to Qin Wentian. Hence, this became another mystery. Right now, what happened to Qin Wentian exactly? Did he intentionally not reply to their messages? Or did he lose his messaging crystal? Their plan was foiled because of Qin Wentian's lack of reply. In addition, they had no other solutions. For this round of tribute, Qin Wentian still didn't show up. It was the evil emperor who brought his subordinates over and paid the same amount of tribute. Right now in the northern city regions, there were no powers that dared to pay less tribute to the governor's manor. Although Qin Wentian wasn't around, the prestige of the governor's manor was no longer the same as before. Not only did the plan fail this time around, for the next few tributes, Qin Wentian didn't show up at all. This also meant that Qin Wentian had already been out for tens of years, and there was no news of him at all. It was like he had completely vanished. Every time the Livefire Empyrean thought of this, he would feel extremely unhappy and worried. Could it be that someone betrayed him? According to logic, those governors shouldn't have the guts to do so. After all, in the Livefire Palace, he was the one with the final say. No one would be able to oppose him. Those governors were very clear of the consequences of betraying him. In addition, Qin Wentian was famous in Livefire City for not interacting with others. Even if Beauty Xiao wanted to curry favor with him, she wouldn't be able to do so. Given Beauty Xiao's shrewd personality, if something happened to Qin Wentian, she wouldn't hesitate to abandon him and stand on his side. Right now, not only was the Livefire Empyrean worried about Qin Wentian, he was also worried about another person. That person was none other than Di Tian, the supervisory commander of the Livefire Palace who was rewarded by the Realm Lord. During these years, Di Tian's development was simply too fast. He was different from Qin Wentian, who kept a low profile and endured silently. His Emperor Pavilion's development could be said to be godly. Because of the lifelong Realm Lord's words, all the major powers were willing to aid them in their development. Right now, the power of the Emperor Pavilion in Livefire City had already surpassed the Jialong clan. It was just that their foundations weren't as deep as the Jialong clan. Also, there wasn't an existence at the Immortal Emperor realm among them. However, the Emperor Pavilion still caused the Livefire Empyrean to feel somewhat uncomfortable. In his territory, just the Jialong clan alone was enough. Now the Emperor Pavilion has also appeared, and he couldn't interfere. What made him unhappy was that the Emperor Pavilion's relationship with the Jialong clan was very close. Even closer than him, the Lifire Empyrean, in the western city regions of Lifire City. Right now, the Emperor Pavilion has already expanded to this location, and had a great amount of influence in the western city regions. Today, Ditian personally came to the western city regions, and gathered many major and minor powers here. He then prepared a banquet and invited the leaders of the major powers here. The banquet was extremely lively. Ditian sat in the host's seat. He was still wearing a mask and had a smile in his eyes. He stared at the people below and spoke. The Emperor Pavilion has already developed for many years in the western city regions. This time around, the reason why I invited everyone to this banquet is because I wish to find a few major powers to cooperate with me. In that case, my Emperor Pavilion would be able to develop even faster. Ditian's words instantly caused the hearts of many experts to pound with excitement. Right now, as long as the various city regions had a connection with the Emperor Pavilion, they would be able to soar to greater heights. This was especially so for the Mo clan that had a good relationship with Grandmaster D. Right now, the Mo clan has already become one of the peak powers in the central city regions. The Yen clan that was as famous as the Mo clan was no longer around, and the other clans that specialized in formations were all swallowed up by the Emperor Pavilion. However, only first-tier powers are willing to cooperate with my Emperor Pavilion. I wonder which power is willing to do so. Ditian asked. My Nya clan is willing to cooperate with the Emperor Pavilion. My Violet Thunder Pavilion is also willing to develop together with Grandmaster D. Many first-tier powers spoke. Ditian smiled and nodded. I didn't expect everyone to support me so much. It's really hard for me to choose. Grandmaster D. At this moment someone spoke. Although my He clan isn't a first-tier power, in truth, our strength and assets aren't inferior to a first-tier power. I hope Grandmaster D can consider this. Oh, is that so? Ditian laughed. I've also heard of the He clan. I heard that the He clan of the western city regions produces many beauties. I wonder if the rumors are true or false. If Grandmaster D is interested, you can come to my He clan anytime. That elder from the He clan smiled, revealing a meaningful smile. He heard that Grandmaster D had many beauties wooing him, but he didn't marry anyone. Most probably this man was too arrogant. Even for the young misses of the various clans, he felt that they weren't qualified to marry him. However, those women most probably already had relations with him. If not, why would he be so close to the Jialong clan? Why would he help the Mo clan to grow into a transcendent power? Since this was the case, if there was a woman from the He clan who could have a relationship with Ditian, he wouldn't mind it. Sacrificing one person to strengthen the He clan, why not? In addition, it wouldn't be too bad if she could become Grandmaster D's woman. After all, Jialan Qiuyue of the Jialong clan had always been sticking close to Grandmaster D. Right, if there's a chance I will definitely go there. Ditian revealed a meaningful smile to that elder from the He clan. After that he asked with some bewilderment. It's just that, does the He clan really have such a strong power and assets? Why is it not a first-tier power? Grandmaster D, is there even a need to ask? Someone from the other powers laughed. Grandmaster D, you've already said that the He clan has many beauties. Our Lord Governor would also frequently visit the He clan. A few people laughed. The experts from the He clan smiled but didn't say anything. Oh, no wonder. Since this is the case, I will consider the He clan as well. It's just that this Governor Een, isn't he worried that the palace lord would blame him? A look of enlightenment appeared on Ditian's face as he shook his head and bitterly smiled. Haha, Grandmaster D is too naive. Someone laughed uproariously. What do you mean? Ditian asked. Let's not talk about this anymore. In any case, these are all rules that stick to convention. That person laughed and waved his hands. Understood, understood. Ditian nodded. It's just that I wonder how good the relationship between the He clan and Governor Een is. If my Emperor Pavilion can gain the support of the Governor's manor, things would definitely be smoother. Grandmaster D, There's no need to worry. My He clan has an extremely good relationship with Governor Een. That expert from the He clan laughed. Since this is the case, let me ask one more thing. Does the He clan really have the strength of a first-tier power? Ditian asked. I can confirm that. Everyone here can testify as well. That expert from the He clan laughed. Upon hearing his words, Ditian smiled and nodded. Men, come over. A figure flashed and appeared beside Ditian. Respectfully greeting, Pavilion Lord. Help me make a trip to the governor's manor, and invite Governor Een to attend the banquet. Ditian spoke. That person nodded and retreated, departing this place. Grandmaster D, why did you invite Governor Een over? That expert from the He clan asked in puzzlement. Everyone will know when he comes. Ditian's smile was filled with deep meaning. Come, let us continue drinking. The group of them drank and chatted happily. After 3 rounds of wine, they all felt more familiar with each other. Hence, their words became more casual and casual. After some time, Een brought his men over. When he saw how lively the banquet was, he couldn't help but to frown. This was his western city regions. Ditian gathered all the major powers here, and seemed to be very familiar with them. There has always been a barrier between him and Ditian. Back then when Ditian wanted to act against Xiahou, he had already objected. Governor D, why didn't you say anything before coming to my western city regions? I would have welcomed you well. Een smiled. Ditian calmly sat there, glancing at him as he smiled. Earlier when I was chatting with everyone here, I just so happened to talk about Governor Een. Hence, I invited Governor Een to make a trip here. What did they talk about? Een smiled as he glanced at everyone. We talked about how Governor Een would often visit the He clan, and their relationship is very good. Also, the He clan said that they have the strength and scale of a first-tier power, but they are only classified as a third-tier power. This truly broadened my horizons. Ditian laughed. Een expression instantly changed. He stared at that expert from the He clan and berated. What nonsense are you talking about? The He clan has the strength of a first-tier power? How dare you boast in front of Governor Ditian? You simply don't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. The expression of that expert from the He clan changed. He could sense that the atmosphere suddenly changed. Something was amiss. In the crowd, there was an expert who lowered his head as a cold smile flashed in his eyes. In the past, he had participated in the Emperor Pavilion's banquet. It was none other than the banquet that determined Governor Xiahou's fate. At that time, Governor Een objected to Governor Ditian's opinion, and Ditian was also the governor of the Law Enforcement Division. Today's conversation had a deeper meaning to it. Earlier, he even intentionally or unintentionally tried to instigate Ditian. What was laughable was that the He clan's elder was still immensely pleased with himself. That's right, it was I who was boasting. I hope Grandmaster Ditian won't blame me. That elder from the He clan reacted very quickly, instantly changing his words. In that case, does this mean that the He clan is only a third-tier power? That's why the governor's manor classified the He clan as a third-tier power? Ditian asked. That's right. Een replied. Ditian laughed. He turned his gaze behind him only to see a few figures flying over. One of them bowed. Lord Governor, earlier we've already investigated. The He clan's businesses are definitely a first-tier power. Ditian nodded. He lifted his wine cup and drank a mouthful. His black eyes flashed with sharpness as he stared at Een Governor Een, do you know your crime? Een heart sank. Ditian clearly came with ill intentions. Clearly, Ditian was here to deal with him. This bastard, wasn't it enough to deal with Xiahou? Did he want to target Een as well? Could it be that Ditian didn't know that the governors of the various governors' manors were all personally appointed by the Liefire Empyrean? This meant that they were all subordinates of the Liefire Empyrean. Was it really because of a personal grudge that Ditian acted against them? Or could it be that he was challenging the authority of the Liefire Empyrean? Chapter 1652. Governor Di Tian must be joking. What crime have I committed? In Xiu had an awkward expression on his face. He coldly glanced at the experts from the He clan, causing the atmosphere of the banquet to turn silent. How could they still not understand what was going on? Governor Di Tian came here for a banquet. It was clear that he had ulterior motives. Before this, Di Tian was still laughing and chatting with the experts from the various major powers. But in the blink of an eye, he invited Governor In Xiu over and directly questioned him. The feeling he gave off was like a sinister plot. The He clan had fallen headfirst into this trap. Naturally, there were also people who rejoiced in their misfortune. They had long realized what Di Tian wanted to do by coming here. It was just that the experts from the He clan didn't understand. Earlier, the people from the He clan personally told me that their He clan has the strength of a first-tier power and the scale of a first-tier power. However, they were only classified as a third-tier power. In addition, they said that Governor In Xiu often visited their He clan, and their relationship is very good. Everyone here can testify to this. Di Tian stared at In Xiu as he spoke. I misspoke and bragged. Grandmaster Di, please don't take it seriously. That expert from the He clan stood up and lifted his wine cup. Grandmaster Di, I misspoke after I drank too much. Please forgive me. As he spoke, he drained the cup in a single gulp. Di Tian coldly stared at him. After you finished speaking, I already sent people to investigate. The reports I received are indeed like what you said. I believe that the Livefire Empyrean would be able to easily investigate this matter. There's no meaning for you to continue lying. That expert from the He clan was drenched in cold sweat. Di Tian slowly stood up and stared at In Xiu. Governor In, what else do you have to say? Governor Di, even if there's such a thing, it might be my fault for being negligent. I will investigate this matter properly. In Xiu spoke. Governor In Xiu often visits the He clan. What else is there to investigate? Di Tian coldly laughed. As the governor of the western city regions of the Livefire Palace, In Xiu, you ignored the rules of Livefire City, and even helped the He clan to exempt the He clan from paying taxes. How vast is the difference between a first-tier and a third-tier power? With your actions, how would the other major powers in Livefire City submit to you? I received the Realm Lord's orders to take on the position of the supervisory commander. Since I've investigated this matter, I will definitely not let this matter rest. Bastard. In Xiu cursed silently in his heart. This bastard is trying to use the name of the lifelong Realm Lord to act against him. Commander Di Tian, it was just a small conflict in the past. There's no need for you to use your official position to avenge your personal grudges, right? In Xiu's voice turned sinister. Such a small matter to a governor was basically nothing. Just like what everyone said earlier, this was merely an unwritten rule. If he really wanted to investigate, all 5 governors of Livefire City wouldn't have any problems. All of them would definitely be in trouble. Di Tian was clearly taking revenge on Hu Yuhao for siding with Xiahou back then. In Xiu naturally wouldn't expect that Di Tian wanted to deal with him. It wasn't because of the minor conflict between them back then. It was because when the Livefire Empyrean summoned all the governors, In Xiu wanted to kill Qin Wentian. At that time, he strongly believed in Zhuge Xiong's words. Since this was the case, it was time for the governors of Livefire City to be reorganized. Today he would start with In Xiu of the western city regions. This seat has always been impartial when doing things. This is my responsibility as the supervisory commander. You actually dare to slander this seat? Men, Governor In doesn't care about the rules of our Livefire Palace. Capture him. Di Tian coldly spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, 2 immortal emperors stepped out, walking towards In Xiu. Impudent. Another person walked out from behind In Xiu. It was one of the vice-governors of the governor's manor, In Xiu's subordinate. This seat is acting on the Realm Lord's orders to exercise the supervisory authority. Those who obstruct me will be treated as disobeying the Realm Lord. They will be killed without mercy. Di Tian coldly spoke. A moment later, the bodies of the 2 vice-governors stiffened as they felt cold sweat dripping down their backs. This Di Tian had already steeled his heart to deal with their vice-governor In. He kept bringing out the Realm Lord's name, and even said the words kill without mercy. If they were really killed by Di Tian, it would truly be an injustice. This bastard, he was truly a bastard. Di Tian, if you want revenge, just say it clearly. There's no need to keep bringing out the Realm Lord's name. If the Realm Lord knows that you are using his name, he would definitely be unhappy. Inchio coldly glanced at the two of them. I'm the Western City Governor of the Lifefire Palace, personally appointed by the Lifefire Empyrean. Which of you dares to touch me? Capture him. If he resists, it would be a crime of disobedience. I will personally act against him. Di Tian lifted his wine cup and drank a mouthful of wine. In an instant, the atmosphere of the banquet froze. It was too stifling. Everyone was trembling with fear as they stared at Di Tian and Inchio. The two of them had directly shed all pretense of cordiality. The two immortal emperors continued walking towards Inchio. Their law energy flashed, wrapping around Inchio. You guys are truly impudent. Inchio's expression turned dark to the extreme. His law energy erupted forth, causing the two immortal emperors to shiver as frost started to form on their bodies. It was impossible for Inchio to sit still and wait for death. He didn't dare to imagine how Di Tian would deal with him after bringing him away. Hence, even if he didn't resist, he had no choice. Truly impudent. Di Tian spoke. He stood up and took a step forward. His eyes flickered with a terrifying sealing light, like the eyes of a seal. In an instant, resplendent law energy shot out from his eyes, raining down on Inchio, wanting to seal the law energy in Inchio's body. Scram! Inchio coldly roared. He punched out with his fist, causing cracking sounds to ring out. The sealing light in Inchio's eyes grew even more terrifying. The sealing light flowed unceasingly, gushing into Inchio's body. Inchio actually felt that he had no way to suppress this sealing energy. Di Tian stretched his hand out towards Inchio and abruptly clenched his fist. In an instant, the boundless sealing law energy transformed into a formless sealing energy within Inchio's body. Inchio groaned in misery. He felt that the circulation of the law energy in his body was no longer smooth. He stared at Di Tian with a sinister look in his eyes. You actually broke through to the peak stage of the Immortal Emperor realm. Di Tian basically ignored Inchio. The sealing law energy in his eyes was boundless as he clenched his fist again. The formless sealing energy ravaged Inchio's body. Di Tian walked towards him step by step and spoke. Western Governor Inchio, you violated the rules of the Lifefire Palace, abusing your authority for personal gain. You even dared to resist this seat's supervision. Your crimes are unforgivable. After Di Tian spoke, he directly slammed his palm onto Inchio's body. Inchio let out a scream of agony as a terrifying transformation occurred in his body. Inchio was drenched in cold sweat. His originally white countenance turned as pale as paper, without a trace of blood. He stared at Di Tian with fear in his eyes, as well as a terrifying curse. Di Tian actually dared to act so ruthlessly against him. How dare you act so arrogantly? The Lifefire Empyrean will never spare you. Inchio's voice was low and hoarse. The people in the surroundings all felt their hearts trembling. This was crazy. Ever since Di Tian was appointed as the supervisory commander, he alone crippled two of the Lifefire Palace's governors. Back then, Governor Xiaohou had a deep grudge with Di Tian. But now Di Tian wanted to cripple Inchio as well. One must know that these two were governors appointed by the Lifefire Empyrean. It was fine if Xiaohou didn't say anything, but now Di Tian wanted to cripple Inchio as well. How could the Lifefire Empyrean not have any reaction? What did this Di Tian want to do exactly? The countenance of that expert from the He clan was already as pale as paper. His body was trembling. This time around, he had created a disaster, a great disaster. I'm ashamed that such a thing happened here today. I won't hold all of you back any longer. Everyone, please feel free to do as you please. Di Tian clasped his hands to everyone. The crowd naturally understood that Di Tian was telling them to leave. All of them bid their farewells, but their hearts were unable to calm down even after a long time. This matter was circulated to the Lifefire Palace in the shortest time possible. Inchio's two vice-governors also left. They weren't vegetarians. They naturally knew what they should do at this moment. But almost at the same time, Ditian also sent someone to the Lifefire Palace to report this matter. After Zhuge Xiong heard of this, his expression turned extremely ugly. He stared at the person who came to report. Governor Ditian, what nonsense is this? After speaking, he took out his messaging crystal and sent a strand of immortal sense into it. Governor Ditian, how did Governor Inxiu offend you? Grand Governor, Inxiu didn't offend me. It's just that he abused his authority for personal gain, messing up the distribution of power, causing many powers in the western city regions to complain and report this matter to me. I specially came here to investigate and as expected, I acted. Right now, I've already sent someone to the Lifefire Empyrean to report this matter. Ditian's voice rang out, filled with righteousness. Zhuge Xiong coldly laughed in his heart. Was there a need to send someone to report this matter? Wouldn't it be enough to just use the messaging crystal? This Ditian was clearly being perfunctory. He wanted to deal with Inxiu. Governor Ditian, Inxiu is after all a subordinate of the Lifefire Empyrean. Can you listen to me and investigate this matter clearly? Maybe you have made a mistake. Zhuge Xiong pleaded for Inxiu. Grand Governor, I'll naturally send someone to investigate this matter. But it's impossible for me to make a mistake. Ditian replied. He had already steeled his heart to deal with Inxiu. Zhuge Xiong even brought out the Lifefire Empyrean, but Ditian still didn't give him any face. Governor D, there's no way to explain things clearly here. I'll go look for you. Zhuge Xiong kept his messaging crystal. He turned and entered the Lifefire Palace. He didn't say anything more and came to the place where the Lifefire Empyrean was at, outside a supreme grand formation. What did he say? The Lifefire Empyrean sat there cultivating as he asked. Palace Lord, I'm preparing to look for him personally. Zhuge Xiong spoke. Upon hearing this, the Lifefire Empyrean's eyes flashed with a terrifying fiery light, causing Zhuge Xiong to feel a stifling pressure, terrifying to the extreme. He understood that the Lifefire Empyrean was angered. Fine. Make a trip personally and probe this Ditian. What does he want exactly? Does he also want my position as the Lifefire Empyrean? The Lifefire Empyrean sinisterly spoke. Ditian consecutively made a move against two of his governors. This was already not giving him face at all. In fact, it could be said that this was a provocation to his authority. Could it be that this Ditian really wanted to challenge his position? Maybe Ditian really had such ambitions. Upon thinking of this, the Lifefire Empyrean's gaze grew even more terrifying. Chapter 1653. Grand Governor Zhuge Xiong came to the Emperor Pavilion in the western city regions. This was also the place where Ditian captured Inxiu. When Ditian saw Zhuge Xiong, he clasped his hands. Grand Governor, why have you come here? Governor D, I'm here because of the matter regarding Governor Inxiu. How did Inxiu offend you exactly? You want to deal with him? If there's anything wrong, I'll get him to apologize to you. Zhuge Xiong spoke. Governor Inxiu didn't offend me. Didn't I say it before? He didn't abide by the rules of the Lifefire Palace, and abused his power for personal gain, creating a random ranking system. This is disrespect to the Empyrean, and also a betrayal to the Realm Lord. I naturally have to capture him, but it's not because he offended me. Grand Governor, have you misunderstood something? Ditian spoke with a straight face. Governor D, back then the Empyrean knew about the grudge between you and Xiahou. Hence, he allowed you to deal with Xiahou and didn't say anything. Right now, although Inxiu made a mistake, it's only human nature. There are countless governors in the lifelong realm who wouldn't have a small problem. Hence, I hope that Governor D can consider things from the Empyrean's perspective. Zhuge Xiong seriously spoke. The hint in his words was already very clear. Governor Zhuge, what do you mean by this? According to what you said, the Empyrean is allowing the governors to not abide by the rules? Ditian asked. Zhuge Xiong frowned. This Ditian was actually still pretending to be ignorant. It seemed like he was a little stubborn. Brother D, you should know very well how the Empyrean treats you. During these years, he has never interfered with the expansion of the Emperor Pavilion. In fact, even when you were very close to the Jialang clan, The Emperor didn't say anything. Can you not see all this? Zhuge Xiong spoke. Tian naturally understands the Emperor's intentions. However, I'm only acting as the supervisory commander. I don't understand what Governor Zhuge is trying to say. Tian's voice turned cold. In truth, he was extremely unhappy with this Zhuge Xiong. This man actually managed to deduce the existence of an avatar. He was truly a dangerous character. In addition, it was one thing for Zhuge Xiong to deduce it, but he actually reported it to the Livefire Emperor, wanting to kill him. If the main body had returned without knowing anything, it would have been an extremely dangerous thing to do, and it was very likely that he would not be able to return. Commander D, do you really not understand, or are you pretending not to? Zhuge Xiong's voice grew louder. Grand Commander, please guide me, Tian said indifferently. Palace Lord, tell Governor D to release Yin Xiu. I want to bring Yin Xiu away. Zhuge Xiong didn't waste any more time, and went straight to the point. He wanted to see how Tian would react. This way he would be able to find out where Tian's bottom line was. Alright. Much to Zhuge Xiong's surprise, Tian nodded his head painfully and said in a clear voice, "Bring him here." Upon hearing this, a smile appeared on Zhuge Xiong's face as he heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Brother Tian, that's right. We are all colleagues. Why must we make things so unpleasant? Tian started, staring strangely at Zhuge Xiong. Upon seeing the look in Tian's eyes, Zhuge Xiong didn't understand. But when someone brought Yin Xiu over, Zhuge Xiong finally understood. His expression instantly turned ashen, extremely unsightly to behold. Staring at Yin Xiu, who was so weak that he couldn't even stand up straight, he coldly spoke. Governor D, what did you do to Yin Xiu? I exercised my authority as the supervising governor, but Yin Xiu refused to cooperate, and even injured my subordinates. Helpless, I could only act and cripple him to prevent him from injuring others. Lord Governor, the Palace Lord wouldn't blame me for being too heavy-handed, right? Tian asked despite knowing the answer. Zhuge Xiong's expression was as unsightly as it could be. Had he been wasting his breath all this while? Yin Xiu was already crippled. Earlier he still thought that Tian had compromised, but he didn't expect that Tian had no intentions of compromising from the start. Tian directly acted ruthlessly, cutting off all paths of retreat and crippling Yin Xiu. Tian, you are too impudent. Zhuge Xiong's face was filled with rage. For this matter, Tian was too ruthless. He didn't even inform the Livefire Emperor, and directly crippled Yin Xiu. What did he mean by this? Grand Governor Zhuge, I respect you as the Grand Governor, and that's why I've always been polite to you. I'm acting according to the Realm Lord's will. Yet you actually want to protect a governor who abuses his power for personal gain. Is this the Livefire Emperor's intention, or are you acting on your own? I believe that the Livefire Emperor will naturally understand my intentions. If you continue to use the Livefire Emperor's name to suppress me, don't blame this seat for being impolite. Tian coldly snorted, his tone suddenly becoming extremely domineering. Zhuge Xiong started, his gaze unmoving as he stared at Tian. With a cracking sound, he clenched his fists tightly. Even with his endurance, he wanted nothing more than to kill Tian with a single punch. However, he knew that this was impossible, because he wasn't Tian's opponent at all. If he really acted here, Tian might dare to do what he did to Yin Xiu and cripple him as well. Tian clearly wanted to challenge the Livefire Emperor's authority. What sort of character was he, Zhuge Xiong? How could he not see this? Yin Xiu was merely an excuse. What an unlucky fellow. You're on your own now. Zhuge Xiong angrily spoke as he brought Yin Xiu away. After hearing Grand Governor's words, did you know that the governors of the Livefire Palace have already decayed to such an extent? Seems like I, as the supervisory commander, have failed in my duties. Just as Zhuge Xiong soared into the air, he heard Tian's voice drifting over from behind. His body trembled unstably as he was so angered that he almost coughed out blood. From Tian's words, did he intend to investigate the other governors? Has Tian joined forces with the Jialong clan? A voice rang out in Zhuge Xiong's mind. After that, he was certain of his guess. Other than this, he truly couldn't think of any other reason why Tian would do this. Although the Emperor Pavilion grew stronger rapidly during these years, there wasn't a character at the Livefire Empyrean's level. Tian himself hadn't reached that level yet. There was only one possibility for him to challenge the Livefire Empyrean's authority now. That was to join forces with the Jialong clan. However, Zhuge Xiong didn't understand one thing. Tian already had such a bright future ahead of him. Why would he take the risk and join forces with the Jialong clan? He couldn't understand. The Livefire Empyrean received Zhuge Xiong's report. When he saw the crippled Yin Xiu kneeling on the ground, crying and begging him for revenge, his expression turned extremely heavy. Does Tian have that kind of relationship with Jialong Qiuyue? The Livefire Empyrean asked Zhuge Xiong. The first thing he thought of was that Tian had joined forces with the Jialong clan. If not, there was no need for Tian to do this. I'm not sure, but from what I know, Jialong Qiuyue has always maintained an ambiguous relationship with Tian. In fact, she really likes Tian. The Jialong clan also hopes that she can become Tian's official wife. Hence, as long as Tian nods his head, regardless of the beauty or the power of the Jialong clan, he would be able to obtain them easily. Zhuge Xiong analyzed. The Livefire Empyrean had a heavy expression on his face. Back then, during the grand banquet of the Lifelong Realm, the Lifelong Realm Lord personally opened a door for Tian. It was destined that no one in Livefire City would dare to touch Tian, as long as he didn't violate the rules of Livefire City. Hence, as long as Tian was more cautious and joined forces with the Jialong clan, the Livefire Empyrean would definitely be in trouble. An example was the matter today. Tian directly acted against the governors of his Livefire Palace when he wanted to. As the Livefire Empyrean, he could only endure it because there was indeed a problem with Yin Xiu, and Tian had already found out about it. Now, unless he removed all of the current officers, Tian wouldn't be able to find anyone to investigate. Otherwise, his subordinates would be in big trouble. The matter with Qin Wentian has yet to be resolved. Right now, Tian appeared out of nowhere. The Livefire Empyrean was extremely unhappy during these years. Tian's matter. How do you think we should resolve it? The Livefire Empyrean asked Zhuge Xiong. It's very troublesome. Yin Xiu said that Tian has already broken through to the peak stage of the Immortal Emperor realm. Unless the Livefire Empyrean acts personally, no one would be able to deal with him. Zhuge Xiong spoke. The Livefire Empyrean also felt that this matter was extremely thorny. He didn't expect that he would be threatened by an immortal emperor today. Given the current situation, we can only temporarily not touch him. Also, order the various governors to investigate the matter and admit to their crimes. Palace Lord, you can deal with them personally, making Tian unable to act. Zhuge Xiong spoke again. The Livefire Empyrean's eyes flashed. Right now, we can only do this temporarily. You can handle this matter. Since Tian wants to walk this path, I will grant him his wish. Right. Zhuge Xiong bade farewell. On the other side, Tian returned to the Emperor Pavilion's headquarters in the central city regions. However, the news of him acting against Governor Yin Xiu soon circulated around Livefire City. Right now, Tian was an influential character in Livefire City. How could this not shake the entire city when he crippled Yin Xiu? Yin Xiu was already the second governor Tian killed. Those who attended the banquet back then still remembered that Yin Xiu had objected when Tian suggested to deal with Xia Hou. Who would have thought that Tian would act against Yin Xiu now? This Grandmaster D was truly showing off his brilliance more and more. In the Emperor Pavilion, Jialong Qiuyue came over and looked for Tian. Tian knew that someone from the Jialong clan would come, and he also guessed that it might be Jialong Qiuyue. What do you want to do? Jialong Qiuyue directly asked when she saw Tian. Tian laughed. What are you referring to? Jialong Qiuyue rolled her eyes. What else can it be? You acting against Yin Xiu would definitely infuriate the Livefire Empyrean. It has been so many years and you have never expressed your stance. Isn't it because you wanted to avoid falling out with the Livefire Empyrean? Why are you doing this now? Tian sweated. This woman thought that he didn't marry her because of the Livefire Empyrean? You are truly narcissistic. Di Tian stared at Jialan Qiuyue. Is that not the case? Jialan Qiuyue's beautiful eyes flashed with confidence. She sat opposite to Di Tian and smiled. You haven't answered me yet. Could it be that you have finally thought things through? In that case, I'm waiting for you to speak. Cough cough. Di Tian stared at that alluring smile in her eyes, and felt that he couldn't endure it. This woman's guts were truly getting bigger and bigger. She actually dared to openly tease him. I only feel that the position of the Liefire Empyrean should be changed. Di Tian stared at Jialan Qiuyue as he slowly spoke. Chapter 1654. Jialan Qiuyue's beautiful eyes froze as she stared at Di Tian. The position of the Liefire Empyrean should be changed? This Di Tian wanted to act against the Liefire Empyrean? Wasn't this a little too audacious? In addition, did Di Tian have such capabilities? The Liefire Empyrean was an extraordinary character, a half-step world overlord. It's said that he has already seen a trace of the world overlord realm. Although it has been many years since he acted, he was extremely powerful. Di Tian wanting to shake the position of the Liefire Empyrean was undoubtedly a fool's dream. What do you mean by this? Jialan Qiuyue stared at Di Tian. Hasn't your Jialan clan always had a grudge with the Liefire Empyrean? Now, I know that the Liefire Empyrean will make a mistake. We can make use of this mistake to deal a heavy blow to the Liefire Empyrean. For this, I need the Jialan clan's cooperation. Di Tian spoke. What mistake? Jialan Qiuyue asked. You should know of Qin Wentian, right? Di Tian stared at Jialan Qiuyue. Back then, many people suspected the Jialan monarch for his death. Right now, the Liefire Empyrean wants to use this matter to make a fuss, acting first and reporting later, wanting to kill Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian obtained the Realm Lord's favor before, and had an outstanding performance in the grand banquet back then. Could it be that the Liefire Empyrean has obtained evidence that the Jialan monarch was really killed by Qin Wentian? Jialan Qiuyue's eyes flashed with coldness. No matter what, the Jialan monarch was her uncle. I'm not sure about this. I only know that the Liefire Empyrean secretly gathered all the governors and plotted to lure Qin Wentian to the Liefire Palace before killing him, and reporting to the lifelong Realm Lord. The Liefire Empyrean doesn't want Qin Wentian to live, and according to my spy, the Liefire Empyrean doesn't have any evidence. Think about it. If the Realm Lord knew that the Liefire Empyrean disregarded him like this, what would he think? Di Tian spoke. There's actually a spy for you in the Liefire Palace. What have you done exactly? Could it be that you acted against Yin Xiu because of this? Jialan Qiuyue felt that she couldn't see through Di Tian. How is our relationship? Di Tian stared at Jialan Qiuyue. Although only a pair of eyes could be seen, Jialan Qiuyue's heart trembled as a hint of shyness appeared on her face. What about my relationship with your Jialan clan? Di Tian continued. The Liefire Empyrean has long been suspicious of me. Because he suspected Qin Wentian, he wanted to act against Qin Wentian. What about me? Once he finds an excuse, he would definitely join forces to deal with all of us. On the contrary, if your Jialan clan becomes the Liefire Empyrean, the significance to me would also be extraordinary. You still know about this? Do you want to marry into my Jialan clan now? I can introduce a young miss of my Jialan clan to you. Jialan Qiuyue giggled. Di Tian sweated profusely. Qiuyue, this matter can be considered a showdown with the Liefire Empyrean. I have no way to predict how things would develop in the future. You should go back and report this to the Jialan clan. If your Jialan clan doesn't want to make things difficult for me, just treat it as though I didn't say anything. I'll just keep a low profile in the Liefire Palace. As for Qin Wentian, so be it if he dies. Okay, I'll go back now. Jialan Qiuyue nodded and departed. Upon seeing Jialan Qiuyue leaving, Di Tian sighed silently. The Jialan monarch had already died. Honestly speaking, his hatred towards the Jialan clan had already dissipated. But for this matter, he still needed to make use of the Jialan clan. He even made use of Jialan Qiuyue's feelings for him. He felt somewhat guilty, but when he thought of Yi Qianyu and how Princess Kitamura was still in the lifelong realm, there were some things he had no choice but to do. He needed authority or he wouldn't even have a chance to come into contact with Yi Qianyu and Princess Kitamura. The Livefire Empyrean personally told the various governors to investigate the matter and strictly maintain order in the various regions. If there were any cases of them abusing their authority for personal gain, they had to admit to their crimes and they would be dealt with leniently. The various governors understood the Livefire Empyrean's intentions, and all of them headed to the Livefire Palace to beg for forgiveness. After being punished, this matter was considered to be over. When this news circulated out, many people felt shock in their hearts. The Livefire Empyrean was clearly targeting Di Tian. Di Tian captured Yin Xiu, but the Livefire Empyrean didn't say anything. He even told the various governors to investigate the matter and admit to their crimes. To the Livefire Empyrean, this was an extremely shameful thing, but he still did it. From this, one could imagine that the relationship between the Livefire Empyrean and Grandmaster Di had already plunged to the freezing point. During these days, Grandmaster Di would frequently visit the Jialan clan as a guest. Jialan Qiuyue would also frequently visit the Emperor Pavilion. Everyone understood that Grandmaster Di ultimately still chose to side with the Jialan clan. He was helping the Jialan clan to deal with the Livefire Empyrean. Ultimately, he couldn't overcome the charms of a beauty. Seems like Jialan Qiuyue has already won the heart of this outstanding governor, a Grandmaster weaponsmith, a genius of the martial path. And during this sensitive period, Zhuge Xiong actually received a reply from Qin Wentian. According to Qin Wentian, he went to a mine and left his interspatial ring in a secret location, including his messaging crystal. Hence, Zhuge Xiong had no way to reply and asked what was the matter. There didn't seem to be any problems. Zhuge Xiong then told Qin Wentian to return, and told him that many things happened in the Livefire Palace. The Livefire Empyrean wanted to summon him many times, but he couldn't find him. Qin Wentian agreed. Zhuge Xiong then set his heart at ease. Seems like there shouldn't be any problems with Qin Wentian. It's just that before the problem with Qin Wentian was resolved, Di Tian and the Jialan clan jumped out again. This caused him to feel extremely depressed. After reporting the news to the Livefire Empyrean, the Livefire Empyrean naturally told Qin Wentian to report to the Livefire Palace after he returned. After that, after some questioning, he directly captured him and killed him on the spot, not giving Qin Wentian any chance to explain himself. The Jialan monarch was killed by him. There was no doubt about it. He wanted to make sure the crime was real and execute him to prevent any future troubles. Since he had decided to do this, the Livefire Empyrean would naturally be very decisive. He would definitely not leave any hidden dangers behind. Finally, today, Qin Wentian returned to the northern governor's manor of the Livefire Palace. Wentian, Zhuge Xiong personally came here to look for you, asking about your whereabouts. I've also sent you a message. The evil emperor saw that Qin Wentian had returned and immediately reported this matter. I know. I also know why they are looking for me. Hence, I didn't reply to you. Su Li, during these few days, is everything fine in the northern city regions? Did anything happen? Qin Wentian asked Su Li. In the northern city regions, he wouldn't allow anyone to use his weakness against him. As long as he didn't do anything wrong, if the Livefire Empyrean wanted to act against him, that would be the Livefire Empyrean's problem. No. Su Li shook his head. Everything is normal in the northern city regions. Good. I'm going to enter closed-door seclusion for a while. If the Grand Governor or anyone else comes to ask, just tell them that I'm in closed-door seclusion because I'm about to break through. No matter what happens, no matter what. Qin Wentian instructed. About to break through? The eyes of the evil emperor and Su Li flashed, gleaming with sharpness. Was he about to break through so quickly? The two of them exchanged mutual glances, unable to conceal the shock in their hearts. Did they know what cultivation realm Qin Wentian was at back then? How many years has it been now? Was he actually about to enter that legendary realm? If they knew that Qin Wentian had already broken through to that level, it was unknown what they would think. Qin Wentian instructed them because he wanted to use them to tell the people of the Livefire Palace that he was about to break through. If they wanted to act, they better hurry up. If not, it would be even more troublesome to deal with him. Qin Wentian decisively entered closed-door seclusion. The Livefire Palace soon received the news that Qin Wentian had returned. As the northern governor, how would Qin Wentian be so naive? He knew that the moment he entered the governor's manor, the Livefire Palace would immediately know about it. It was impossible to say that there were no people from the Livefire Palace in the governor's manor. If not, the Livefire Empyrean would have suspected him back then, because the Livefire Empyrean's people must have seen him leaving the governor's manor. Hence, on the second day, Grand Governor Zhuge Xiong personally paid a visit to the northern governor's manor. The evil emperor and Su Li personally received him. What's wrong? Didn't Governor Qin hear my words earlier? It has been so many years since he went to the Livefire Palace. Why did he enter closed-door seclusion the moment he returned? Zhuge Xiong was extremely unhappy. Get him to come out immediately and head to the Livefire Palace with me. Grand Governor, please calm your anger. Governor Qin has already given a death order. Right now he is currently at a crucial moment in his cultivation. No one, no matter what, is allowed to disturb his cultivation. If not, all of us will be punished. Su Li respectfully spoke. What crucial moment? You even dare to disobey the Livefire Empyrean's orders? Zhuge Xiong stared at Su Li. Are you going to disobey as well? Governor Qin didn't say that he received the Livefire Empyrean's orders. He shouldn't know about this. If he knew, he would head to the Livefire Palace first. Su Li explained. Also, before he entered closed-door seclusion, Governor Qin said that he was about to break through. At this moment, even if something major happened, this subordinate wouldn't have the guts to disturb him. If Lord Governor's breakthrough was delayed, I wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Zhuge Xiong's eyes flashed with sharpness when he heard this. Did Governor Qin really say this? This subordinate doesn't dare to lie to Grand Governor. These are Governor Qin's original words. He is about to break through, and no matter who it is, no one is allowed to disturb him. Su Li solemnly spoke. Zhuge Xiong's eyes gleamed with sharpness. Qin Wentian was actually about to break through? What a fast speed. Since this is the case, I'll report this to the Livefire Empyrean first. Humph. Zhuge Xiong left unhappily. Su Li watched as his silhouette disappeared. He then glanced at the evil emperor and asked, why do I feel that something is about to happen? The evil emperor's eyes narrowed, gleaming with an evil light. Qin Wentian entered closed-door seclusion the moment he returned. After that, Zhuge Xiong arrived and told him to go to the Livefire Palace. Not only that, Zhuge Xiong's attitude was extremely domineering. This was something that had never happened before. Also, from Qin Wentian's reaction, he knew that Zhuge Xiong would come. Hence, he gave the death order, not allowing anyone to disturb him. In that case, Qin Wentian was intentionally avoiding this matter. Yeah, a storm is brewing. The evil emperor opened his eyes, gleaming with an evil light. Chapter 1655. After Qin Wentian returned to Livefire City, it seemed as calm as ever on the surface. However, in truth, undercurrents were already surging in the dark. The Jialong clan was silently making their move. In fact, the core character of the Jialong clan, Jialong Jiangshan, who had once contended against the Livefire Empyrean for the position of Palace Lord, personally came to Livefire City and gathered many experts. Not only so, the Jialong clan in Lifelong City was also making preparations in case of any unexpected situations. The Emperor Pavilion also gathered their core members. Unknowingly, the experts of the Emperor Pavilion were all stationed in the northern city regions of Livefire City. The Emperor Pavilion had many businesses in this region, and it was easy for many experts to stay here to deal with any sudden changes. Just like what the evil Emperor and Su Li had guessed, right now, a storm was brewing in Livefire City. It was just that it was temporarily invisible. After Zhuge Xiong returned to Livefire City, he told the Livefire Empyrean about the news of Qin Wentian breaking through. After the Livefire Empyrean heard this, he asked, could Qin Wentian be doing this intentionally? In truth, he already received the news and knows that we are going to deal with him? That shouldn't be the case. If he received the news, he wouldn't have returned to Livefire City. Zhuge Xiong spoke with certainty. If he knew, Qin Wentian should understand that returning to Lifefire City would only mean death. How could he still come back to send himself to death? Does this mean that he might really be about to break through, and is at the most crucial moment? The Lifefire Empyrean's eyes flashed with terrifying flames. Although he has been in the Empyrean realm for many years, and even if Qin Wentian really broke through, he was confident that he would be able to kill him easily. However, he had seen Qin Wentian's combat prowess before. He was worried that something might go wrong if Qin Wentian really broke through. That might be the case. Most probably he wouldn't come out of seclusion before he breaks through. Palace Lord, are we still going to wait for him? Zhuge Xiong asked. The Lifefire Empyrean was naturally the most suitable place to deal with Qin Wentian, because this was the Lifefire Empyrean's territory. Everything here would be decided by the Lifefire Empyrean, and there wouldn't be any leaks at all. No matter how they deal with Qin Wentian here, outsiders wouldn't know. But now, Qin Wentian was in closed-door seclusion, wanting to break through before exiting. This became a question of choice. Should they wait for Qin Wentian to exit seclusion to summon the Lifefire Palace? Or should they directly head to the Northern Governor's manor? We can't wait any longer. The Lifefire Empyrean's eyes flashed with coldness. Palace Lord, the Jialong clan is located in the northern city regions. Over there, their power is extremely great. Wouldn't there be more complications? Zhuge Xiong spoke with some trepidation. Jialong Jiangshan isn't here. What can the Jialong clan do? In any case, no matter how strong the Jialong clan is, this place is still Lifefire City. The Lifefire Empyrean domineeringly spoke. Also, if the Jialong clan knew that Qin Wentian was the one who killed the Jialong monarch, the Jialong clan would also hope for Qin Wentian's death. If I act personally, there wouldn't be any accidents. Your subordinates are useless. It has been hard on Palace Lord. Zhuge Xiong bowed. This matter should have been handled by him. The governors of the various regions in Lifefire City were all his direct subordinates. But now, a governor of the northern city regions actually needed the Lifefire Empyrean to act personally. This naturally meant that his capabilities weren't enough. Qin Wentian is too demonic, you can't be blamed for this. Immediately gather all the governors for a discussion. The Lifefire Empyrean commanded. Zhuge Xiong nodded and took out his messaging crystal, summoning all the governors to the Lifefire Palace. Naturally, there weren't many governors he could summon now. Only the governor of the central city regions, Sun Qian, the governor of the eastern city regions, Lin Ba, and the governor of the southern city regions, Beauty Xiao, were left. Yin Qiu was already crippled, and the governor of the northern city regions was Qin Wentian. The three governors received the order and brought their vice-governors to the Lifefire Palace. Beauty Xiao kept cursing in her heart. That bastard actually returned? She had already told him that the Lifefire Empyrean wanted to kill him. Yet he still dared to return? Could it be that the Lifefire Empyrean didn't dare to take his life? Right now, the Lifefire Empyrean personally summoned all the governors and vice-governors. Clearly he wanted to act against her. What was even more infuriating was that when she sent a message to him, Qin Wentian actually didn't reply to her. This bastard didn't know the immensity of death. When the three governors arrived at the Lifefire Palace, they discovered that there were already many people here. Grand Governor Zhuge Xiong's subordinates, as well as some protectors and attendants of the Lifefire Palace. There were over 10 immortal emperors gathered here. Such a powerful formation. The Lifefire Empyrean must have personally made a move. However, the Lifefire Empyrean didn't appear. The person leading these experts was none other than Grand Governor Zhuge Xiong, as well as two other masked figures. These two had always been the Lifefire Empyrean's left and right arms, and were extremely mysterious. Behind them, there were also many immortal emperors wearing similar masks. They were none other than the secret guards of the Lifefire Palace. Grand Governor, is there a need for such a powerful formation just to deal with a single Qin Wentian? Beauty Xiao smiled. Right now, there are many experts in the Northern Governor's manor. We have to capture the evil emperor and the others first. If they dare to resist, kill them on the spot. No accidents are allowed to happen. Zhuge Xiong coldly spoke. After that he waved his hands. Move out. As the sound of his voice faded, this group of people directly moved towards the northern governor's manor. The left and right messengers led the secret guards and moved alone, not together with Zhuge Xiong and the others. One in the open, one in the dark. This was clearly a ruthless move. Beauty Xiao understood what sort of character the Livefire Empyrean was. Someone who could sit in this position would surely be extremely ruthless and decisive. Since he wanted to do something, he wouldn't leave behind any hidden dangers for himself. Qin Wentian was someone whom the Realm Lord had singled out before. Under the situation where there was no evidence, if they wanted to kill Qin Wentian and make sure that he was guilty, they couldn't leave behind any hidden dangers. If not, if the Realm Lord was unhappy, it wouldn't be beneficial to the Livefire Empyrean. This group of people moved in an imposing manner. All of them were immortal emperors. There wasn't a single immortal king among them. At this moment, the people of Livefire City had no idea what would happen to Livefire City today. They were living their lives as per usual, cultivating alone, trading for treasures, drinking wine and chatting idly, or enjoying the pleasures of the flowers. It was the same for the northern governor's manor as well. Everything was in order. In fact, there were no abnormalities at all in the governor's manor. Do you guys know that the governor has already returned? Some people in the governor's manor whispered. We know. Lord Governor has always been elusive. This time after he returned, he has been staying in the governor's manor, not appearing at all. I heard that on the second day after Lord Governor returned, Grand Governor Zhuge Xiong came by as well. He seemed to have something to look for Lord Governor, but was obstructed by Vice Governor Su. I wonder if something would happen. What can happen? Don't you know what sort of character our Governor Qin is? Although Zhuge Xiong is the Grand Governor, so what? In front of Lord Governor Qin, he still doesn't have the qualifications to be arrogant. That person spoke with arrogance, feeling an intense reverence for Qin Wentian in his heart. Although Qin Wentian was very low profile during these years, he was simply too special. Every single thing he did would cause a huge commotion. Just as they were speaking, a terrifying fluctuation suddenly appeared in the air. The clouds churned and after that, a stifling pressure bore down from the sky. What's going on? The crowd frowned. What happened? They inclined their heads, only to feel the pressure growing stronger and stronger. In a short instant, the entire governor's manor was enveloped by it. After that, numerous figures descended from the sky. Each of them was an immortal emperor. Also, the person in the lead was actually Grand Governor Zhuge Xiong. At this moment, the hearts of everyone in the governor's manor trembled. They understood that something major was about to happen. The entire governor's manor was instantly in a state of chaos. In fact, even the people in the surroundings of the governor's manor could feel the pressure. When they saw the experts descending from the sky, all of their gazes were filled with shock. Was the sky changing? The experts in the air descended, standing in different locations. Zhuge Xiong stepped out as he spoke in a clear voice. Northern Governor Qin Wentian, come out. No one replied. In the inner regions of the governor's manor, the evil emperor, Su Li and the others appeared. They soared into the air and stared at the experts descending from the sky. Although they knew that a storm was brewing and that something major might happen, they didn't expect it to happen so quickly. Governor Qin is currently in closed-door seclusion. Grand Governor, what do you mean by this? Su Li asked. Zhuge Xiong's expression was cold to the extreme. He then spoke. Qin Wentian has violated the iron rules of the Livefire Palace. His crime is unpardonable. Palace Lord is summoning him to the Livefire Palace for questioning. Also, all the vice governors and attendants of the northern governor's manor are to follow me there. Even now, Zhuge Xiong still wanted to bring Qin Wentian back to the Livefire Palace to deal with him in secret. The gazes of the evil emperor and Su Li froze. Was he planning to capture them all in one fell swoop? He wanted to bring the vice governors and attendants away? Could it be that the Livefire Empyrean wanted all the core characters of the northern governor's manor to disappear? Countless people felt their hearts trembling. The Livefire Empyrean wanted to capture the northern governor's manor. Qin Wentian? What was going on exactly? I don't understand Grand Governor's meaning. The evil emperor's eyes flashed with a green light as he coldly spoke. You will know after you go to the Lifefire Palace. Zhuge Xiong's immortal sense gushed out, enveloping the governor's manor. His gaze landed on the courtyard Qin Wentian was in, and he punched out. In an instant, a beam of fist light pierced through the sky, directly penetrating through everything. Thunderous rumbling sounds rang out as the buildings collapsed, causing dust to fly up into the air. An extremely sturdy cultivation formation could be seen in the midst of the ruins. A white-robed figure sat cross-legged there, as though he was cultivating inside. This white-robed figure was none other than Qin Wentian. At this moment, Qin Wentian inclined his head. His eyes were like sharp swords, shooting straight up into the clouds, incomparably resplendent and terrifying to the extreme. With a single glance, Zhuge Xiong's eyes trembled. At this instant, he actually felt like he was facing a divinity. It was like this person was someone he couldn't defeat. Finally, it has come. Qin Wentian's eyes were terrifying. He slowly soared into the air, waiting for this moment for a very long time. Chapter 1656. Qin Wentian floated in the air, staring at the Lifefire Empyrean and his subordinates. He then turned his gaze to Zhuge Xiong as he coldly spoke. Governor Zhuge, may I ask what crime I've committed? His voice was very calm, but Zhuge Xiong felt his heart trembling. For some reason, Qin Wentian actually gave him an indescribable sense of pressure, an extremely intense pressure. We'll talk about this matter after we head to the Lifefire Palace. The Empyrean wants you to bring the northern vice-governor and attendants back with me. Governor Qin, just do as he's told. Zhuge Xiong's voice was no longer as domineering as before. The calm Qin Wentian actually caused him to feel fear. If Qin Wentian suddenly acted up, he might really be in danger. If you don't explain clearly what crime I, Qin, have committed, I won't go to the Lifefire Palace. Governor Zhuge bullied me and humiliated me, even destroying my residence. I'm afraid I won't be able to return. Qin Wentian stood with his hands behind his back. His white robes fluttered in the wind, exuding a ruthless aura, causing the eyes of everyone to gleam with sharpness. As expected of the magnificent northern governor, Qin Wentian. Despite the fact that experts were as common as clouds and the Lifefire Palace wanted to interrogate him, his expression didn't change at all. In fact, he even directly threatened Zhuge Xiong, saying that if Zhuge Xiong couldn't give him an explanation, there was no need for him to leave. In that case, the Empyrean's orders are already useless to you? Zhuge Xiong's voice turned cold after being threatened by Qin Wentian. If I'm innocent, the Empyrean wouldn't dare to humiliate me like this, destroying my governor's residence. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. Is that so? A domineering voice drifted over from the void, exuding an overwhelming might. In an instant, this vast region felt a stifling pressure. Countless people were shocked as they inclined their heads and stared at the sky. However, they couldn't see any silhouettes. In fact, even with their immortal senses, they couldn't sense the presence of anyone. They could only sense the terrifying pressure. At this moment, they all knew that the Lifefire Empyrean had arrived. What did the northern governor, Qin Wentian, do exactly? Why would the Lifefire Empyrean personally make a trip here? Zhuge Xiong's expression was cold. However, the beautiful silhouette behind him, Beauty Xiao, had a look of worry on her face. Could it be that this fellow wanted to go head-on against the Empyrean? Did he really not know that he was courting death? Qin Wentian also inclined his head and stared at the void. He naturally knew who had arrived. He had long predicted that the Lifefire Empyrean would definitely come here personally, because other than the Lifefire Empyrean, none of his subordinates would be able to capture him. He could only do it himself. Qin Wentian, I told you to go to the Lifefire Palace. Are you going or not? The Lifefire Empyrean coldly spoke, exuding a towering pressure. Qin Wentian stared at the void, his body still straight as he said proudly, Palace Lord, please tell me, what crime have I committed to deserve such humiliation? You only need to answer me. Are you going to leave or not? The Lifefire Empyrean domineeringly spoke, not bothering to waste words with him. Qin Wentian stood there and replied, "I'm sorry, I'm unable to comply. Where are the vice-governors and attendants of the northern governor's manor? Are you going to listen to my orders or are you going to disobey?" The Livefire Empyrean asked. After a moment, other than a few vice-governors who had been following Qin Wentian, the other vice-governors and attendants were all trembling with fear. Was there a need to choose? Although their governor was the exuberant Qin Wentian, the person who spoke was none other than the supreme existence of the Livefire Palace, the Livefire Empyrean. Your subordinates obey Palace Lord's orders. We're willing to follow the Grand Governor. In an instant, more and more people spoke. After that, their silhouettes flashed as they flew towards Zhugexiong. The people of the northern governor's manor all had dumbfounded looks on their faces when they saw this scene. They then turned their gazes to Qin Wentian. This exuberant governor was someone they had always revered like a god. But today, was this godlike existence about to crumble? He had angered the Livefire Empyrean. The atmosphere was incomparably heavy. The hearts of the people in the governor's manor pounded unceasingly. During these years, Qin Wentian was their faith. No one would have thought that such a thing would happen. Qin Wentian, this seat will ask you one last time. Are you going or not? The Livefire Empyrean's imposing voice rang out once more. Qin Wentian still quietly stared at the air. A warrior can be killed but cannot be humiliated. Since this is the case, I'll grant you your wish. A voice rang out, and in the next moment, an even more terrifying pressure enveloped the world. The void seemed to have been branded red, and there was an extremely terrifying pressure in the world. Flames covered the sky, and blood-red lightning descended from the sky. It was as if doomsday had arrived, flashing in the void. After that, deafening rumbling sounds rang out. In the air, a gigantic blood-colored palm imprint descended from the sky. At this moment, it was like the end of the world had arrived. It was about to be destroyed. Below, countless people trembled. They frenziedly retreated. Zhugexiong and the others also evaded. That giant palm imprint seemed to have a spirit of its own, and directly shot towards Qin Wentian, controlled by his law intent. An incomparably resplendent light radiated from Qin Wentian, radiating the might of light. Buddhic light shone resplendently as countless arms blasted out, welcoming the incoming blood-colored palm imprint. There was a sense of tragedy in it. It was like he knew it was impossible, but he still chose to do it. He would rather die than to be humiliated. The luxurious governor's manor was now filled with the magnificence of an apocalypse. All of Qin Wentian's attacks were destroyed by that palm imprint. Everyone stared dumbfoundedly at this scene. The Livefire Empyrean wanted to directly destroy Qin Wentian, not giving Qin Wentian any chance at all. When that apocalyptic palm imprint slammed down, an incomparably intense boom rang out, after which, the spectators only saw the earth trembling as a gigantic crater appeared, emitting an aura of scorching destruction. The entire ground was dyed red as a series of fiery fissures appeared. The gazes of the crowd turned over. Qin Wentian, who exuded magnificence throughout the generations, was he killed so easily? He died just like that? Wasn't this a little too childish? Furthermore, it was extremely cruel. Such an extraordinary and outstanding commander was easily killed. In front of absolute power, no matter how outstanding one's talent was, it was all just like floating clouds. No wonder those peerless monstrous geniuses were no different from ordinary people in front of those in the upper echelons. So what if your talent is high? If you anger me, I can easily kill you. You won't even have the chance to grow. At this moment, a light sound rang out. After that, a figure walked out from the crater. His white robes were stained with blood, and he looked extremely disheveled. However, his aura was still the same, exuding boundless magnificence as he stared disdainfully at this space. This strike actually failed to kill him. In the air, a stifling pressure enveloped this space once more, as though a second killing technique was being prepared. Empyrean, what are you doing? A voice drifted over from afar. After that, a terrifying whistling sound rang out as resplendent beams of light shot through the air. In just an instant, another group of figures appeared in the air. The person standing at the very front was clad in black robes, and had a mask on his face. He was actually a character on the same level of fame as Qin Wentian, a grandmaster weaponsmith of Lifefire City, a genius of the martial path, the supervisory commander, the lord of the Emperor Pavilion Di Tian. Not only did Di Tian arrive, he even brought many experts with him. There were over 10 immortal emperors. Their lineup actually didn't lose out to the Lifefire Empyrean at all. When they thought of the recent rumors about Di Tian falling out with the Lifefire Empyrean, a strange expression appeared on the faces of everyone. Was Di Tian preparing to join forces with the Jialong clan and clash head-on against the Lifefire Empyrean? Di Tian actually appeared at this moment. For a period of time, the scene was even more spectacular. Experts were as common as clouds. More and more experts gathered here. There were also experts from the various powers in Lifefire City, all of them rushing over here with extreme speed. Many people received a piece of news that something major was about to happen in the northern governor's manor. Zhuge Xiong frowned when he saw Di Tian's appearance. This fellow's appearance was truly timely. He actually came here at this moment. Di Tian, this matter has nothing to do with you. Please leave. Zhuge Xiong spoke to Di Tian. What crime did Governor Qin commit? Palace Lord wants to kill him on the spot. Di Tian's gaze was still fixed on the air as he directly asked. Do I need to answer to you? An imposing voice rang out. The Lifefire Empyrean was already extremely unhappy with Di Tian. Now Di Tian actually dared to ask him about his matters. Palace Lord naturally doesn't need to answer to me for your actions. It's just that I received news that Palace Lord wanted to kill Governor Qin under false pretenses. I initially thought that the news was fake. What sort of character is Palace Lord? Why would he act against a subordinate governor? But now, I actually saw Palace Lord killing Governor Qin. Hence, I wanted to ask you something. Di Tian calmly spoke, neither servile nor overbearing. Qin Wentian was disobedient and disobeyed Palace Lord's orders. This crime alone is sufficient. Zhuge Xiong coldly spoke. Governor Di actually dared to slander Palace Lord? This is a great crime. Disobedient? Di Tian glanced at Qin Wentian. Governor Qin, is there such a thing? Palace Lord, if you want to kill me, just say so. Why is there a need to find excuses? I returned to my governor's manor for closed-door seclusion, but Zhuge Xiong directly killed his way here and destroyed my governor's manor, waking me up from my seclusion. After that, he said that I've committed a great crime, yet he didn't say what the crime was and wanted to bring me back to the Lifefire Palace. I want to ask Palace Lord, is this the crime of disobedience? Qin Wentian coldly spoke. Shut up. The Lifefire Empyrean berated. After that, he turned to Di Tian. Governor Di, I know you are the supervisory commander. However, the crimes Qin Wentian has committed cannot be pardoned. I will personally report this to the Lifelong Saint Hall. There's no need for you to worry about this. You can leave now. I initially thought that the news was fake. However, Palace Lord didn't even say what the crime was and wanted Governor Qin to die. As the supervisory commander, I have no choice but to act cautiously. I hope that Palace Lord will show mercy and allow me to report this to the Lifelong Saint Hall. Di Tian came here precisely for this matter. He had waited for a very long time. How could he leave now? This seat is in charge of the Lifefire Palace. Do I still need you, the supervisory commander, to agree to arrest a criminal? The pressure in the air grew even more intense, terrifying to the extreme. A terrifying aura bore down on Di Tian. It was like if he was angered, he might even act against Di Tian. Palace Lord doesn't dare to say what the crime is. Seems like the news I received might really be true. For the sake of killing Governor Qin, Palace Lord actually arranged such a grand formation, abusing his authority to eliminate dissidents. I.D. am under the Realm Lord's orders to supervise the Lifefire Palace. Since this matter is so serious, I have to do something about it. After Di Tian was threatened by the Lifefire Empyrean, his voice grew even more domineering. This caused everyone to feel fear in their hearts. They felt that this matter was getting more and more difficult to see through. Chapter 1657. Who are you? Do you have the right to interfere in the matters of the Lifefire Palace? Zhuge Xiong berated. That person's gaze turned sharp as he stared at Zhuge Xiong and coldly laughed. I'm from the Xianyuan clan of Lifelong City. What do you want? Does everyone believe me? Di Tian glanced at the people around him. Everyone shook their heads. Governor Qin was too careless. It's very normal. Zhuge Xiong spoke. Governor Qin, is this the case? Di Tian asked Qin Wentian. Sun Qian, how many benefits did the Jialan clan and Di Tian give you for you to dare to betray the Lifefire Empyrean? Zhuge Xiong's reaction was extremely fast. Could it be that you don't know the crime of going against your superiors? As the sound of his voice faded, a figure walked over. This person was none other than Jialan Jiangshan. He stood arrogantly in the air, like a divinity. He stared at the Lifefire Empyrean. I didn't expect that after you became the Lifefire Empyrean, you would act so recklessly, killing your own subordinates. Not only are there people from the Xianyuan clan here, there are also people from various powers in Lifelong City. They are all my good friends and came to the Lifefire Palace to look for me. However, I received some news from the Lifefire Empyrean. Hence I brought all my friends here to take a look. As expected, I've seen how tyrannical the Lifefire Empyrean is. There's no need to care about crimes. You can kill me directly. If the Lifefire Empyrean says that I've committed a crime one day, would he kill me directly? Not long ago, he acted against Yin Xiao. Could it be that this was merely a premonition? Everything pointed to the Lifefire Empyrean. Qin Wentian stared at Zhuge Xiong. If you wish to incriminate someone, you can always find a pretext. I really want to know where this avatar of mine came from. Why is it that even I don't know about it? In addition, everyone in the Lifefire Palace knew that this supervisory commander stood on the opposite side of him. The Lifefire Empyrean's eyes flashed with terrifying killing intent. This smiling tiger Sun Qian. He had always felt that he was very honest with him. But now Sun Qian had actually betrayed him. The Jialan monarch must have been killed by Qin Wentian. In that case, I can't even enforce the law in the Lifefire Palace anymore. I'm actually to say that I'm being restricted by a supervisory commander. If there's no evidence, isn't it a little too tyrannical to execute a supervisory commander? What are you going to do about it? When the Lifefire Empyrean heard Di Tian's voice, he let out another terrifying roar. After that, in the air, a bolt of blood-red lightning flashed as a figure appeared there. It was none other than the Lifefire Empyrean. He was like the lord of this world, looking down at the masses with disdain. His eyes flickered with blazing flames as he stared at Di Tian. Palace Master, why do you need to change the topic? You didn't mention any crime, and directly wanted to kill a commander. Could it be that as the supervising commander, I don't have the qualifications to interfere? Di Tian spoke. Or to put it in another way, Palace Lord is a marquis of a region. In your eyes, you basically have no respect for the supervisory commanders appointed by the Realm Lord. You even dared to act so brazenly in front of me, killing a governor. Even the Lifefire Empyrean couldn't understand at this moment. Why would the situation be so out of control? Ha ha ha. The Lifefire Empyrean laughed uproariously, causing the entire space to tremble. The flames in the Lifefire Empyrean's eyes grew even more intense as he spoke. Get the person behind you to step out. A lovable laughter rang out. Beauty Zhao's silhouette flashed as she appeared behind Di Tian. Palace Lord, I've always felt that it's not appropriate to treat Governor Qin like this. Palace Lord, please retract your order. Although we can't eliminate the suspicion of Qin Wentian, we don't have any evidence. We can't prove that Qin Wentian was the one who killed the Jialan monarch. Jialan Jiangshan replied. Naturally, we managed to lure a bandit into our trap. He personally told us who it was that found them back then. It was none other than Governor Qin's portrait. Zhuge Xiong spoke. From what I know, back then when the Jialan monarch was killed, Governor Qin was already in the governor's manor. Also, many people personally witnessed it. Palace Lord, aren't you lying to yourself by saying this? Di Tian spoke. Does the Jialan clan want to interfere in the matters of my Lifefire Palace? The Lifefire Empyrean coldly spoke. He then glanced at Di Tian, supervisory commander. What crime do you have for colluding with the Jialan clan? Di Tian's voice grew more and more domineering. When everyone heard that many major powers of Lifelong City had sent people here, they all felt an unusual aura. Right now, out of the 3 governors of the Lifefire Palace, Lin Ba, Sun Qian and Beauty Xiao, 2 of them had betrayed the Lifefire Empyrean and admitted that he wanted to kill Qin Wentian. Senior Jialan, you are the elder of the Jialan monarch. Do you believe the words of the palace lord? Di Tian glanced at Jialan Jiangshan as he asked. At this moment, the gazes of everyone froze. The eyes of the Lifefire Empyrean also flashed with a strange light. The people from the Xianyuan clan actually appeared. Since this is the case, I hope that Grand Governor Zhuge can hand over that bandit. My subordinate is the evil emperor, and he can control others. He would know who is lying the moment he asks. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. What did this Di Tian want exactly? Right now, it was tough even if they didn't want to complicate matters. Things seemed to be developing in a direction that was out of their control. Grand Governor, do you think I'm a fool? As Qin Wentian spoke, his countenance changed unceasingly. He then coldly continued. Given my appearance-changing arts, if I want to disguise myself as a bandit and kill the Jialan monarch, do I even need to use my original appearance? In that case, I really want to hear what news Governor Di Tian has obtained. The Lifefire Empyrean asked. How terrifying. Many people felt fear in their hearts. Even the people from the Lifefire Palace felt their hearts trembling. This time around, even Zhuge Xiong and the people from the Lifefire Palace felt fear in their hearts. Qin Wentian was merely the fuse. Di Tian, this Grandmaster weaponsmith, had long made arrangements in the dark. Even Governor Sun Qian was his subordinate. Story? Di Tian coldly laughed. He turned his gaze in the direction of Zhuge Xiong only to see a figure flashing there, instantly appearing beside Di Tian. Lifelong City, Xianyuan clan. Zhuge Xiong's expression froze as he stared in a daze at the person beside Di Tian. However, right now it was no longer a question of who killed Qin Wentian. There was basically no way to explain this because they had no evidence at all. Di Tian's domineering voice caused the atmosphere to grow even more tense. Right now, were these 2 supreme governors fighting against the Lifefire Empyrean? Palace Lord, Sun Qian doesn't dare to kill a governor so brazenly. I can only report this to the supervisory commander. Sun Qian spoke, undoubtedly admitting to Di Tian's words. The Lifefire Empyrean plotted to kill Qin Wentian. His lips suddenly curled into a cold smile. It seemed like Di Tian had come prepared today. Colluding? Jialan Jiangshan spoke. I just can't stand your actions. Di Tian's relationship with my Jialan clan isn't bad, and he is also highly regarded by the Realm Lord, allowing him to monitor the Lifefire Palace. Now that you are acting so brazenly and Di Tian wants to stop you, why can't I help him? With the Realm Lord above, even if he learns of this in the future, he would definitely understand. Di Tian stared at the Lifefire Empyrean as he spoke. What sort of character was he? His immortal sense was so powerful that it could cover a boundlessly vast area. How could he not know that his old rival had personally come here? Could it be that Qin Wentian already knew everything and even colluded with Di Tian? I am highly regarded by the Realm Lord. Since I encountered such a matter, even if I can't interfere, I have to do my best. Di Tian spoke, staring at the Lifefire Empyrean. If the Palace Lord wants to do this, Di Tian can only play along. This matter has to start from Governor Qin Wentian. Back then, Governor Qin once had an extraordinary relationship with the bandit Yi Qianyu. After that, the Lifefire Empyrean captured Yi Qianyu and made use of Qin Wentian to become the northern governor. Everyone in Lifefire City knows of his intentions. However, as Governor Qin displayed his brilliance at the lifelong banquet, the Lifefire Empyrean started to fear his growth. This was because Governor Qin was no longer under the Lifefire Empyrean's control. Hence, the Lifefire Empyrean used the matter of the Jialan monarch's death to frame Governor Qin, wanting him to head to the Lifefire Palace and kill him on the spot. Dead people have no way to defend themselves. At that time, the Jialan monarch could only be killed by Governor Qin. Am I right? Zhuge Xiong, you were the one who came up with this idea, right? As expected of the brains of the Liefire Empyrean. Di Tian glanced at Zhuge Xiong. People of the Liefire Palace, I hope you guys won't be foolish and become a sword in the hands of others. This matter implicates too much. I will definitely report this to the Realm Lord. Is there anyone else who is willing to step out and tell the truth? Sun Qian, what are you doing? Zhuge Xiong stepped out as his gaze froze. The Liefire Empyrean's eyes flashed as he stared at Sun Qian. Your ability to fabricate stories isn't bad. The supervisory commander and the Jialong clan joined forces, wanting to remove me from my position as the Liefire Empyrean? The Liefire Empyrean laughed as he stared at Di Tian. From the looks of it, it made sense why Di Tian was able to understand his movements so clearly and set up such a trap today. Qin Wentian and Di Tian rose to fame at the same time, both at the lifelong Realm Lord's banquet. At this moment, they were facing the same character, the supreme character of Liefire City, the Liefire Empyrean. But what was going on with this Di Tian exactly? Grand Governor, do you have any proof for your words? Di Tian asked Zhuge Xiong again. Everyone was shocked when they saw Qin Wentian's methods. As for the Liefire Empyrean, his killing intent flashed, further confirming his guess. Why did Jialong Jiangshan of the Jialong clan come here today? There were also experts from the Xianyuan clan and the other major powers of Lifelong City. Could it be that everything was just a coincidence? The hearts of everyone trembled. Right now, they already understood the situation before their eyes. This was a gamble between Di Tian and the Jialong clan against the Liefire Empyrean. They made use of a mistake by the Liefire Empyrean and launched an attack. This time around, they wanted to pull the Liefire Empyrean down from his position. Since you all want to know so much, I'll tell you. Qin Wentian, as the Liefire Empyrean, killed the Jialong Monarch. Are you satisfied with this? The Liefire Empyrean's voice was cold to the extreme. He was actually forced by an immortal emperor to give an account. This was simply a humiliation. This is naturally because of Qin Wentian's outstanding points. He has an avatar, using this to deceive everyone. His true body disguised himself as a bandit and killed the Jialong Monarch while his avatar appeared in the governor's manor, causing no one to suspect him. Grand Governor Zhuge Xiong spoke. He naturally couldn't let the Liefire Empyrean speak to Di Tian personally. Enough. The Liefire Empyrean berated. His aura was terrifying to the extreme as he stared at Di Tian. Right now, you should be clear about the crime. Qin Wentian assassinated the Jialong Monarch. Are you satisfied now? Chapter 1658. Sun Qian and Beauty Xiao were both subordinates of the Liefire Empyrean. If it was just Sun Qian alone, it could be said that he was bribed to betray the Liefire Empyrean. But since the two of them stood out together, their credibility was much higher. The Liefire Empyrean didn't have any evidence to prove that Qin Wentian killed the Jialong Monarch. He only wanted to use this chance to get rid of Qin Wentian. With regards to this point, many people believed it. They also knew a little about the matters between the Liefire Empyrean and Qin Wentian. This was completely possible, just like how the Liefire Empyrean was certain that Qin Wentian killed the Jialong Monarch. Beauty Xiao. The Liefire Empyrean stared at Beauty Xiao. In an instant, Beauty Xiao felt a sense of suffocation. Her body trembled slightly as Liefire flashed in her eyes. Palace Lord, are you planning to silence me? Di Tian coldly spoke. Jialong Jiangshan stepped out, standing in front of the Liefire Empyrean. The two Empyreans stood in confrontation. Everyone was incomparably shocked. This place was Liefire City, the territory of the Liefire Empyrean. The Liefire Empyrean was actually in a passive position now. Palace Lord, as the Lord of the Liefire Palace, you are in charge of a vast territory. I didn't expect that you would actually do such a thing, killing a governor for no reason. Most probably, similar things have happened many times in the past. It's just that in this Liefire Palace, there's basically no one who can restrain you. Di Tian coldly spoke. There's an ancient saying that when a general is outside, he might not obey the orders of the monarch. Palace Lord, you are a marquis of a region. I'm sure you don't have the Realm Lord's orders in your eyes. Back then, I heard that when Yi Qianyu and the other bandits slaughtered their way into the Jialan Emperor city, the evil emperor was among them. Palace Lord's subordinates clearly could have stopped them, but they didn't, causing countless casualties in the Jialan Emperor Palace. Even the Jialan monarch's wife and daughter died because of this. Is this true? Jialan Jiangshan questioned. For this point, I can take care of it. Because back then, I was the one who slaughtered my way into the Jialan Emperor Palace. The Crow Immortal Emperor was there, but he didn't obstruct me, allowing me to deal with the Jialan Emperor Palace. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. After that, Palace Lord made use of me to deal with the Jialan clan, placing me in the northern city regions as a governor. Now, you actually want to kill me to prevent future troubles. Palace Lord, good methods. Out of the 4 remaining governors of the Lifefire, 3 had betrayed the Lifefire Empyrean. During these years, the northern governor's manor has never done anything. It's still the Jialan clan who has been maintaining order in the northern city regions. We still have to pay taxes. What's the use of the governor's manor? His aura surged as the apocalyptic scene behind him continued. It felt like he wanted to incinerate the entire world in a moment of rage. He, the Lifefire Empyrean, actually fell into Tian's trap today. This was clearly set up to deal with him. All the spearheads were pointed at him, revealing all the mistakes he had committed, placing them before the eyes of everyone. Zhuge Xiong, as the Grand Governor of the Lifefire Palace, you actually incited the Lifefire Empyrean to commit a crime, suggesting that Governor Qin should be killed. Do you know your crimes? Tian stared at Zhuge Xiong in the air as he coldly spoke. Governor Lin Ba, as well as the protectors and guards of the Lifefire Palace, I will definitely report this matter to the Realm Lord. Are you guys still going to be so thick-headed and continue to make mistakes? Shut up. The Lifefire Empyrean coldly berated. Today, I came here to apprehend the criminal Qin Wentian. Supervisory Commander Tian obstructed me in every possible way, colluding with the Jialan clan, and plotting to topple my position as the Lifefire Empyrean. Such a crime of treason is actually so righteous, inciting the Jialan clan and Emperor Pavilion to rebel together. This is simply an extremely heinous crime. Tian, I'll only ask you one question. Today, are you sure you want to rebel against the Lifefire Palace and help the Jialan clan seize control? The Lifefire Empyrean clearly knew that everything Tian said was correct. However, at this moment he was already riding a tiger, and it was hard for him to dismount. Right now he could only say a few words. The winner is the king, the loser is the vilified. As the saying goes, the victor is the king. Everything written in the dossier would be written by the victor. No matter what conflicts there were, strength would be the final solution. Since both parties were so stubborn, and both wanted to seize the mistakes of the other, the only thing that could decide everything would be strength. The Jialan clan allied with the Emperor Pavilion, and wanted to clash with the Lifefire Empyrean. Since this was the case, he would accept the challenge. Seems like Palace Lord is going to make mistakes again and again. How heartbreaking. As the supervisory commander, Tian has received the Realm Lord's kindness. I advise Palace Lord not to do things like this again. If you stop now, it's still not too late. Maybe after the Realm Lord investigates clearly, he would be lenient. Tian sighed. Tian, you betrayed the Lifefire Palace and allied with the Jialan clan. Your crimes cannot be pardoned. Even now, you still have no heart to repent. In that case, as the Lifefire Empyrean, I, as the Lifefire Empyrean, can only suppress you. The Lifefire Empyrean waved his hand. In an instant, a powerful formation radiated outwards. The hidden guards were like venomous snakes, ready to attack at any moment. The crowd was in a commotion. Many people understood that a battle was about to begin. From the start, this conflict was already destined to be resolved through a battle. Because no one could give way. If the Lifefire Empyrean gave way, where would his prestige and status as the Lifefire Empyrean be? Wouldn't that mean that he had admitted his mistakes and crimes? If that was the case, would he still be able to sit on his position as the Lifefire Empyrean? It was also impossible for Tian and the others to retreat. They had already initiated this conflict and were directly facing the Livefire Empyrean. The Jialong clan had also acted and they had grasped the timing so well. How could they retreat now? The people from the Jialong clan and Emperor Pavilion also acted. Waves of terrifying might gushed forth, causing the surrounding crowd to retreat again and again. The majestic northern governor's manor would soon become a battlefield that could change the heavens. The vice-governors and attendants of the northern city regions felt their hearts trembling. When the Livefire Empyrean appeared, although they respected Qin Wentian, they still chose the Livefire Empyrean without any hesitation. However, the current situation had far exceeded their expectations. They were now embroiled in a shocking storm. People of the Livefire Palace, stop being so stubborn and helping the evildoer. Di Tian berated the people of the Livefire Palace. The hearts of everyone trembled. After all, 2 governors had already betrayed the Livefire Empyrean, and the others were also wavering. Could they win this battle? However, the prestige of the Livefire Empyrean was still there. He stood there like a divinity. Who would dare to retreat? Di Tian colluded with the Jialong clan to betray the Livefire Palace. Bring all of them away. If anyone resists, kill them without mercy. The Livefire Empyrean officially gave the order. A violent aura gushed forth. In the sky, astral light flashed, raining down from the skies. The entire space was filled with Emperor light as well as a terrifying storm of law energy. Both sides were unleashing their tyrannical strength. Ha ha ha, how impressive. It has been a long time since I had a good battle. Let's fight. Jialan Jiangshan spoke to the Livefire Empyrean. They didn't act against the others or both sides would surely suffer heavy casualties. Right. The Livefire Empyrean nodded. Livefire flashed with apocalyptic light, transforming into a blood-red fire dragon that directly shot towards Jialan Jiangshan. With an intention of his will, numerous snow-white demonic snakes appeared in the air, frenziedly rushing towards the Livefire Empyrean. In that area, the power of the Livefire Empyrean could destroy everything. No one else could enter this battlefield. Governor Zhuge, you instigated the Livefire Empyrean to kill me, barging into my governor's manor and forcing me out. Now how should we settle this debt? Qin Wentian's white robes fluttered in the wind. He stared at Zhuge Xiong as he coldly spoke. Upon seeing those eyes, Zhuge Xiong's expression grew unsightly. The Livefire Empyrean was fighting against Jialan Jiangshan. In that case, who would be the one to deal with Qin Wentian and Di Tian, these 2 demon-level characters? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.